Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had a bunch of quirks. If you guys enjoy this movie, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content. And leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story Nightwolf Gamer 3 from AO3. So let's start the video. Izuku had made his way to Hound Dog's office, limping there. He had seen his entire class there, with anxious expressions, though for some it was rather ambiguous how they were feeling. Katsuki walked up to Izuku. "Where were you, quirkologist?" Katsuki simply asked. "Mr. Aizawa told me to stay back, since he wanted to thank me for speeding up his recovery, and to give me a note to give during heroics class in case I can't handle my injuries," Izuku explained, hoping that Katsuki wouldn't be angry. "That's perfectly reasonable, since I can't carry you around all day. And you certainly can't keep tentacles activated forever." Katsuki nodded, soon realizing he should apologize to Izuku for making him limp all the way there. "Also, I'm sorry for not helping you walk here." "It's okay, Kaken. Hound Dog is a very good counselor, and I know that there were some traumatic things that happened at the USJ. Like 13, Izuku accepted. "Oh yeah, do you know how 13 is?" Katsuki asked. "I don't actually know. I didn't see her in Recovery Girl's office, so either she wasn't badly injured or was sent somewhere else. I hope she's okay," Izuku responded. As time went on, people went and people left once they were finished up. Anxiety consumed Izuku, since his routine was pretty much ruined. Usually on a Monday, math with ectoplasm was Izuku's first subject. Izuku needed his routine, though soon enough, it was Izuku's turn. "Izuku Midoriya," Hound Dog called out, Izuku being the last one there. "Good morning, Ryo." Izuku walked into Hound Dog's office. "First of all, I would like to thank you for dealing with some of the villains during the USJ incident. It mustn't have been easy for you to deal with your trauma," Hound Dog commented. "Secondly, I have a few questions about the USJ incident for you. Answer truthfully for me, please. Any lies or misinformation could hinder your participation during the upcoming sports festival." "Understood." Izuku nodded. "What exactly happened to you?" Hound Dog asked, prepared to write down important notes. "Firstly, I was listening in closely to 13's speech about how certain quirks can be used to kill people, though I ended up spacing out a bit near the end. Then soon after she had finished, villains showed up," Izuku explained, not noticing the tears forming in his eyes. "Then I started becoming stressed out, because of two villains in particular that stood out to me. Then I started having flashbacks to when I was being attacked by villains. And then one of my classmates tried to comfort me. I don't know who it was, I think it was Kirishima. Then I was teleported to the flood zone, which after seeing the villains in the water, 𝐴𝐸 saved me, and then after we escaped, Kaken told me that there were some quirks for me to steal and copy. Then we went to the mountain zone, where I stole some more quirks, and I saved Momoya Yarazu, Kyokajiru, and Denki Kaminari. The Kaken and I then went back to the plaza, and I saved All Might, but I ended up falling unconscious afterwards." "I see. What were you doing on your days off?" Hound Dog asked. "On the first day, I was let out of Recovery Girl's office, and I just spent the day relaxing and watching the news," Izuku informed. "Then for the rest of the days, Kaken, Kirishima, and I went to the beach." Izuku didn't mention that Katsuki, Ejiro, and himself were quirk training, since he was worried that the three would get reprimanded and be unable to go to the sports festival. Honestly, he was surprised that the three weren't caught using their quirks during the days off. And if he wasn't allowed to go to the sports festival, nobody would see him use his quirks, and he wouldn't be able to get recognized by any pro heroes. And if that were to happen, as Izuku's thoughts raced, he didn't realize that his breathing was picking up. "Izuku, are you okay?" Hound Dog asked Izuku. Izuku just remained silent. The only noise coming from him was his fast breathing. Hound Dog walked over to him. "Is it okay for me to touch you?" Hound Dog asked. Izuku didn't respond right away. But after a while, Izuku nodded slightly, which meant yes. So he slowly put one hand gently on Izuku's shoulder blade, whilst the other held onto Izuku's arm. With that done, he carefully began rubbing circles there, trying to calm the freckled boy down. Eventually, Izuku calmed down. "Thank you," Izuku muttered quietly. "No problem." Hound Dog smiled warmly. "What exactly caused that to happen?" "I guess my thoughts got out of hand. You see, my dad works as a support hero, meaning that he makes and upgrades support items for other heroes. And if I'm unable to go to the sports festival based on what I say here, he might not be able to see me on my quest to become a pro hero," Izuku explained. "I see. Well, I can assure you that you are in good hands, and your participation in the sports festival has not been hindered yet," Hound Dog assured Izuku. "One last question before I have to send you to class. How are you feeling after the incident?" "I guess shaken up. I never thought I'd encounter so many villains in one place before," Izuku sighed. "There are so many, I can't even think about it without wanting to. Hearing the broccoli boy ramble, saying wanting to a bunch of times. Hound Dog knew that there was something going on behind the scenes that he'd need to speak to Izuku's mother about. Izuku, do you ever do harmful acts of violence towards yourself, such as cutting? Hound Dog perked up. Izuku knew that he shouldn't lie, but what would happen if he said yes? Would they cut him from the sports festival? Or even cut him from UA altogether? Did he want to risk it? Should he risk it? But what if he said no? Would he be unable to attend the sports festival? Would he be expelled? Then Izuku came up with a plan. Maybe. Izuku shamefully replied. Maybe is a halfway yes, after all. Don't be afraid to tell me the truth, Izuku. Nothing will happen to you if you tell me the truth. You'll be able to go to the sports festival, and your dad will be able to see you compete. Hound Dog reassured the green bean. Now which one is it? Yes or no? Izuku took a deep breath. Why? Yes, Ryo. I sometimes cut myself, whenever I can't stop thinking about villains attacking me. Izuku replied, tears pouring down his face. Most of the times I do it. I find that it helps. Other times, it just hurts. Hound Dog couldn't help but feel sorry for Izuku. Of course, he knew he'd have to speak with 𝛱 about this, and of course he needed to ask Izuku a few more questions regarding his cutting. Have you cut recently? Like in the past week? Hound Dog asked, proceeding to write down everything that Izuku said. No, I haven't been able to find any of my blades, Izuku mentioned. This made Hound Dog semi-relieved. This meant that Izuku hadn't received any new cuts, and 𝛱 was probably aware of what Izuku was doing to himself. Do you have any cuts that are still healing? Hound Dog asked. No, they're mostly all healed up now. Izuku nodded. I've used my regeneration quirk on them before, so nobody would ask about them. Not even 𝐾𝐦 knows that I cut myself. This made Hound Dog happy, since at least Izuku was healing himself. Last question, does anyone else know about your cutting? The green bean just shook his head. I see. Well, I'll have to inform your mother of this, and tell her about some of the stuff we've talked about this session. Hound Dog told Izuku. As for you getting back to class, are you alright to go back to class, or would you like to ride on my back and I'll take you back to class? Can I ride on your back? Izuku replied. Hound Dog smiled, as he let Izuku climb onto his back, helping him when he was using his injured foot. Soon, as Hound Dog was nearing 1A's classroom, he decided to ask Izuku something. Since the sports festival is next week, I would like to offer you something. Hound Dog said. Like what? The green bean was pretty interested in Hound Dog's proposition. I can help you train for the sports festival. In return, you'll do your absolute best during the festival. Hound Dog proposed. I'll do it. Izuku nodded. Okay, meet me after school on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, since those are the times that we meet up. Later, it was lunchtime, and the Ochako squad were heading to the cafeteria, minding their own business, until a familiar face ran into them accidentally. If it isn't some of my favorite students. Aizawa smiled. Midoriya, can I speak with you for a moment? Sure, Mr. Aizawa-sensei. Izuku nodded as the rest of the Ochako squad agreed to meet him in the cafeteria. I just wanted to apologize for raising my voice to you when I gave you that note. I didn't direct it at you. I was just angry with All Might when he told you that you weren't allowed to leave class when you requested it. Aizawa apologized. To make it up to you, I'll help train you for the sports festival. Aizawa, Izuku thought carefully about his words. Surely another trainer wouldn't go horribly wrong, right? I would love to. Good. I'll meet you after school on Tuesday and Thursday, since those are the days I won't have my partner on my hands. Aizawa subconsciously smiled. Dang Zashi. He muttered that last part, while also smiling subconsciously. Then, there was lunch. The Ochako squad had all agreed to train together, though Izuku mentioned that he'd be late, because of reasons that he never specifies. Izuku's plan was set. He'd train a lot for the sports festival, and then his father would see him, and then he'd be proud of him. After Izuku's afternoon of training with Hound Dog, and then his friends, he walked home with Katsuki, and Izuku got a big surprise when he got home that day. Welcome home, Izuku, 𝛱 exclaimed, looking like she had quite the busy day. Hey, how was your day? Izuku asked his mother, who greeted him with a hug. Quite eventful. What about you? 𝛱 smiled, letting go of Izuku. It was good. Next week, the UA Sports Festival is happening. Izuku recapped. Okay, I want you to cover your eyes. There's a surprise in the kitchen. 𝛱 smiled as Izuku closed his eyes. 𝛱 helped Izuku over to the kitchen. 1. Because Izuku couldn't see anything with his eyes closed. 2. His ankle. When Izuku sat down and opened his eyes, he had seen a man that looked like himself, only older. Hello, Izuku. The man greeted. Dad? Izuku asked in disbelief. That's me, Hisashi Midoriya, at your service. Hisashi introduced himself. What a surprise, Dad. What brought you to 𝐀𝐦 here? Izuku asked, trying to keep his composure, but failing because of his own excitement, due to seeing his father for the first time in years. I heard that the UA Sports Festival is coming up, so I had 2 options. Hisashi explained as the two walked to the dining table. Either I watch it from the agency that I work at, the Collector's Touch Agency, Or, I come here and watch my son with my wife. So, you chose the second option. Precisely. So, what pro hero do you work under? Izuku asked his father. A few actually, but I only know the name of one, which is the prankster hero, Collector's Touch, since they're the hero that the agency is named after. Hisashi replied. As you probably know, I work as a support hero for the agency, one of the best, actually, mainly since I'm one of 5 of them. I make support items for the heroes that work at the agency. Who knows, maybe one day you'll work there. Oh, I've heard of Collector's Touch. Their quirk is similar to mine, actually. Izuku smiled. Their quirk is called Collection, a mutant type that allows them to copy and stockpile quirks. I see, so your quirk is under the rare subtype of copying quirks. Hisashi guessed. Yeah, kind of. My quirk is one with all. I named it that, because technically I'm the one with all of the quirks. It's an emitter type that allows me to take a portion of someone else's quirk, leaving my target with a weaker version of their quirk and giving myself a stronger version of their quirk based on a number of factors. Izuku ⴅ though most of my own quirks originally came from villains. I see. Well, has UA been good? Hisashi checked in. It's been great, actually. I've been making a few friends, and everyone seems really nice. Izuku told him. That's great to hear. And what about your studies? Are they going well? Hisashi asked. Yes, actually. Although I've gotten a bit behind in math, but I think I'll manage it. Plus, I'm doing very well in my other subjects too. Hisashi just nodded at this. Soon, 𝗀𝐻 walked in. Dinner's ready, you too. 𝗀𝐻 informed the father and son duo, bringing out 𝐀𝐦. 𝐀𝐦, my favorite. Hisashi exclaimed. No way, 𝐀𝐦 is my favorite as well. Izuku exclaimed. 𝗀𝐻 smiled. Clearly the father and the son were bonding well. Hound Dog is waiting for me. I need to hurry up. Izuku thought to himself, quickly limping to the PE grounds, where Hound Dog was waiting for him. Izuku Midoriya, I'm glad you made it, despite your sprained ankle. Hound Dog greeted. Well, I made a deal with you, and I don't turn down deals. Izuku replied, smiling. Izuku was wearing a green singlet, with black track pants and his usual red shoes. So what exactly do you want me to do, Ryo? Izuku asked Hound Dog. First of all, target practice. Hound Dog pointed to a cardboard cutout of himself that was on the other side of the PE track. You're going to destroy the cardboard cutout. Izuku nodded and activated a combination of ranged quirks. Gunpoint plus fireworks. Izuku shot several fire bullets at the Hound Dog cardboard cutout, until it was destroyed. This went on for the next 30 minutes, where the same thing happened, but Izuku was standing from different places, being either closer or further away. Next, you're going to continuously run around the track until I say otherwise. Hound Dog instructed. Izuku nodded, as he activated another quirk combination. Engine plus weight loss plus muscle expansion plus tentacles. Izuku became weightless, as he sprouted engines on his legs, as tentacles wrapped his injured ankle up, and his muscles expanded, making him stronger. Izuku ran around the track, eventually getting tired and stopping. Excellent work. Hound Dog praised him. I think I can do more. I need to go beyond my limits. Plus ultra style. Izuku panted. Izuku, you need to take a break. If you overwork yourself, you'll injure yourself further. Hound Dog told Izuku. Alright, fine, I'll take a break, but only for a minute or two. Izuku sighed. Hound Dog sighed, and motioned for Izuku to sit down on the floor. Izuku obliged, putting his head and his arms on his knees. Hound Dog handed him a water bottle. Water, Izuku. Hound Dog offered. Thanks, he took a swig. They didn't talk for some time. They stayed like this until Izuku decided it was time to train again. He started running, and Hound Dog gave a nod, signaling for Izuku to continue. And again, the same thing happened, although this time Izuku's stamina increased and he managed to do 40 laps. Once they finished training for the day, Izuku went to his next training session. Izuku had made his way to the beach that he and Katsuki cleaned. When he got there, he saw the Ochako squad all training. Ochako and Tsu were lifting weights, Katsuki and Rikido were sparring, Denki was figuring out how to best use his new staff, and Mina and Tenya were having a race. Hey, everyone, Izuku called out. Oh, hey, Quirkologist. Katsuki waved. Did I miss much? Izuku asked. Not really, we're all just doing our own thing. Rikido replied as he and Katsuki walked up to Izuku. I've been experimenting with different sugars, and you were totally correct about using different sugars resulting in different effects. When we were at the USJ, I felt like a mini All Might when I was fighting the villains where I was. That's amazing. Izuku beamed. Hey, Midoriya, come run with us. Mina called out. Izuku ran over to Tenya and Mina. The three began running, and Izuku activated tentacles and engine. The three kept running across the beach until the sun began to set, which was when the Ochako squad parted ways, and Katsuki and Izuku walked home together. That night. So have you been training for the UA Sports Festival, Izuku? Hisashi asked his son. Yeah, today I've been working on my stamina. Izuku nodded, eating his katsudon. Things stayed quiet for a few more minutes. _Ɪnko soon finished up her katsuden and stood up. That katsuden was lovely. Now I have somewhere to be, _Ɪnko said before walking off. Hisashi and Izuku just looked at each other and shrugged, proceeding to finish off their katsuden. Once they finished dinner and cleaned up, they had their business. In front of the TV, Izuku and Hisashi started watching the news together, both of them taking notes. So where have you been training with your friends? Hisashi inquired. Takoba Municipal Beach Park. Izuku replied. I see. So do you want to hear more about me being a support hero? Yeah. As you probably know, I make support items for other heroes in the Collector's Touch agency, and I work with 4 other support heroes. I don't really know much about my co-workers, mainly due to my autism. Wait, you know what autism is, right? Oh yeah, I'm autistic, too. Izuku smiled. Oh, phew. I don't really like having to explain myself. So as I was saying, what I do is extremely important for the pro heroes I work for. For example, I designed the first prototype of a digital encyclopedia for a pro hero that can mimic people's quirks as long as they know how the quirk works. The way it works is that they can search up the quirk that they want to use, which tells them everything that they need to know about the quirk. And my co-workers and I have been working on a feature that allows them to mark quirks they find extremely useful. Hisashi explained. Whoa, that sounds so cool, Dad. Izuku smiled. Thank you, my boy. I suppose that this might not sound like much of an interesting topic, especially considering our busy day, but I'd love to share the details of it later. He smiled, ruffling Izuku's hair. So, since you know so much about other people's quirks, could you perhaps help me and my friends train for the sports festival? Izuku offered. Of course. What time do you train? Hisashi replied. 16:10 is when we usually train together. Izuku explained as Hisashi nodded. Tuesday, Aizawa was waiting for Izuku in a forest that wasn't that far from UA. Hopefully the directions I gave him aren't too complicated. Aizawa muttered, Izuku running into the forest. Speak of the devil, I'm here. Izuku blurted out. Whoa, kid, don't push yourself. You may be training for one of the most important events in your life, but don't forget, you're still healing, and recovery time may take longer than necessary, and that could hinder your participation in the sports festival. Aizawa cautioned. Izuku nodded in understanding, taking a seat on the ground. So what will you be teaching me, sensei? Izuku asked. As you may know, society isn't innovative with their trash, so they dump it in the most vulnerable of areas. This forest is one of them, Aizawa explained. What you'll be doing is cleaning up this area, along with any other trash that needs to be taken care of. Izuku was confused by what Aizawa meant by taking care of trash, but nevertheless, he nodded and agreed, sitting down to clean up the area. As Izuku worked, Aizawa spoke some words of advice to his student. Do whatever you're comfortable doing. Aizawa told his student. It is up to you. Soon, as time passed, Izuku realized that it was time for his other training session. Aizawa-sensei, I have to go now. Izuku informed his teacher. But Midoriya, you're far from complete. Aizawa informed. I'm aware, but there's somewhere else I have to be. Sorry. Izuku apologized, running out of the forest. Izuku took a different route to the beach than usual, so he could meet his dad not far from it, so his friends wouldn't think that he was a predator, call the cops on him, and expose themselves as well. Hisashi was waiting where Izuku told him to wait. Dad, Izuku called out. Izuku. Hisashi smiled. Izuku ran up to him, giving him a big hug. Hisashi happily embraced him back, while patting Izuku on the back. So, are you ready to meet my friends? Izuku asked his father. Of course. Hisashi smiled. Izuku led his father to the beach, where the Ochika squad were doing some basic exercises, until Katsuki noticed Izuku walking with his father. Izuku. Katsuki called out. Hey, everyone. Izuku greeted as Hisashi walked up. This is my father, and he's going to help us with training. Dad, introduce yourself to everyone. Hi, I'm Hisashi Midoriya. But you all can call me Flamethrower, since that's what everyone called me in high school, because my quirk, Dragon's Breath, allows me to breathe fire. Hisashi nervously introduced himself, trying not to stim. Why hello, Mr. Midoriya. I am 𝗀𝐻. Tenya introduced himself, doing his usual chopping stim. Sup, I'm Denki Kaminari. Denki introduced himself. I'm Mina Ashido. Mina introduced herself. The name's Rikido Sato. Rikido introduced himself. The name's Tsuyu, but just call me Tsu, Kiro. Tsu introduced herself. I'm Zero Gravity. I mean Ochako Uraraka. My quirk is called Zero Gravity. Ochako laughed. I'm Katsuki Bakugo. Katsuki introduced. Oh yeah, I remember you. Mitsuki would often bring you around Izuku's place so that you two could bond. Oh how time has passed. Hisashi reminisced. How is your mother by the way? I don't think she knows I'm visiting. She's fine, going great even. Katsuki replied, unable to process the fact that Izuku's father was present. She and dad are coming out with a new fashion line soon. Well I see, so how exactly do you guys train? Hisashi wondered. After a quick explanation of what they were doing, Izuku decided to try out some combinations of quirks to see what could be useful. Slippery Slide worked quite well with water control, since Slippery Slide made Izuku pretty wet, and he could control the water using water control. Ignite worked quite well with Burning Hands, since the combination produced blue fire. Izuku then tried to work on a combination that could make him similar to a fire-breathing dragon. Izuku wrote down possible ideas in his notebook. Hot wings plus horns. This was a good start. Not perfect, but he was on the right track. Hot wings plus horns plus lion's roar. Not too bad. Maybe he should work on some more combinations before going too far. Hot wings plus horns plus fireworks. Izuku was getting on the right track. At least this combination used fire projectiles. Hot wings plus horns plus crystallize. Yeah, that could work. But then Izuku remembered something. He didn't have a quirk that could breathe fire. That was going to be a bit of a problem. Though for now, Izuku was happy with his current combination, and he figured that he'd also try to incorporate fireworks and lion's roar into the combination as well. So for the rest of the afternoon, he sparred with his father, trying to see how good of a combination this would be. Wednesday, Izuku continued his training with Hound Dog. This time, Izuku was working on strength training. Izuku started to do some push-ups, with help from his tentacles. After the workout, Izuku began practicing some punches, with Hound Dog watching closely. "You're doing well, Izuku," Hound Dog complimented. "But don't forget, it's okay to accept vulnerability. It doesn't mean you have to throw everything away, no matter how strong you seem to be. Your body needs to heal first before you try anything drastic." "Right," Izuku mumbled quietly. He knew that Hound Dog was telling the truth, and yet, the words echoed through Izuku's mind over and over again, refusing to leave. How weak was Izuku if he couldn't even handle this kind of thing? How was he supposed to be an amazing hero when he couldn't even manage to deal with simple injuries? Izuku knew that there would come a point when he would need to step aside and let someone stronger than him take the reins. But the thought terrified him, and the idea filled him with self-doubt. "You okay, Izuku?" Hound Dog asked. Izuku looked up at his mentor, who seemed to be concerned. Izuku sighed, rubbing the top of his head sheepishly. "Sorry, I guess I zoned out for a second." Izuku apologized. "Don't worry about it," Hound Dog assured his student. "What happened?" "Nothing really, it's nothing, really," Izuku mumbled. "If something was bothering you, you can talk to me anytime you want. Remember that," Hound Dog reminded him. "I know, thank you," Izuku thanked him, and the two returned to their exercises. Later that afternoon, Izuku went to his other training session with the Ochika squad. This time, Izuku sparred with Denki. Izuku was able to get a few hits in, until he was forced to dodge Denki's kick from behind. Denki did not give Izuku the chance to recover, as he charged at him once more. Izuku was able to block the blow this time, but he had to admit he wasn't feeling very well. However, he quickly caught himself and attempted to punch Denki in the face. However, the blonde blocked and countered by grabbing Izuku's arm and throwing him onto the ground. Denki then proceeded to attack Izuku with punches. Once Izuku got back to his feet, Denki followed up by attacking Izuku with kicks. Izuku managed to dodge them all, but one landed on his leg, causing pain to shoot up to Izuku's knee, causing him to fall down again, screaming in pain. Denki was quick to follow up with another attack, but Izuku managed to block it, and managed to get the blonde to stumble a little. Izuku then threw another kick at Denki, but he dodged this one and punched Izuku in the side of the stomach, knocking the air out of him. Denki then proceeded to jump onto Izuku and continue punching him in the face, until finally, Izuku grabbed a hold of Denki and flipped him onto the ground, with Izuku on top of him. After a few seconds of intense beating, Izuku stopped and sat up. Denki got off Izuku, and stood up, dusting his clothes off. "That was good though, Izuku," Denki said. "It seems like you'll be able to do better next time." "The same goes to you, Denki," Izuku smiled. Thursday, Izuku continued his training with Aizawa. Izuku finished cleaning up the forest. Izuku mostly used web shoot to gather up any trash he had missed. "Nice job," Aizawa complimented his protege. "Now for today, you'll be showing me your progress." "Are you sure? You're still bandaged up pretty badly," Izuku pointed out, aware of being at least a little bit hypocritical. "I never said that you'd be testing your skills on me." "Come with me." Aizawa guided Izuku out of the forest. Aizawa led Izuku through UA, into the training grounds, to where the physical part of the entrance exam was held. "Do you remember taking the entrance exam to get into UA?" Aizawa asked Izuku, who nodded. "This is the place you took it. And you busted a lot of robots. You got How many points was it?" 110 points, sensei. Though most of them were rescue points, Izuku answered. "Well, for all of the robots you destroyed, you got a certain amount of points. Now how do you feel about fighting the robots you destroyed?" Aizawa asked his student for consent before doing anything that made the broccoli boy uncomfortable. "Oh fuck yeah," Izuku smiled. I remember taking down 6 1-pointers, 6 2-pointers, and 4 3-pointers, and that 0-pointer was a whole other story. Right, well here's how the whole thing will go. First, you'll fight the 1-pointers, then 2-pointers, then the 3-pointers, and then you'll fight a couple of 0-pointers to see how better of combat you are. Aizawa explained. All right, I'm ready. Izuku nodded. Okay, but if you need to take a break, let me know, since I can stop this at any time, Aizawa told Izuku. A few minutes later, the challenge had started. 3 1-pointers had appeared. Fireworks plus web shoot plus gunpoint plus heart bomb. Izuku used several webs to sling himself up to the top of one of the 1-pointers, and once he was high enough, he shot several heart bomb enhanced fire bullets at the 1-pointers that he was aiming. Each one hit, exploding the robot with a large cloud of smoke. One more attack sent another wave of fire bullets toward the second robot, which was now just starting to react to the attack. Izuku then realized that he needed to use a different quirk combination. Hot wings plus jelly surprise plus attraction of small objects. Izuku formed 2 flaming wings on his back, soon shooting jelly surprise beneath the 1-pointers. When the 1-pointers were stuck, Izuku used attraction of small objects on them, destroying them slowly. Soon, 3 more 1-pointers came out. Hot wings plus horns plus crystallize plus fireworks plus lion's roar. Izuku gained 2 big horns on his forehead. His arms and legs became all crystalline, and he kept the flaming wings on his back. Izuku flew towards the 1-pointers, shooting several fire bullets at them. He managed to destroy them all, while firing a few lion's roar blasts at each one. And now, the 2-pointers. 3 2-pointers had come out. Izuku shot several fire bullets at the robots, mostly at the ones closest to him. But after the third 2-pointer had gotten close, Izuku fired a lion roar blast at its legs. The blast completely disabled the robot, allowing it to drop down to the floor. Soon, 3 more 2-pointers had come out. Izuku had shot several fire bullets at the robots, destroying them. Soon, 4 3-pointers came out. Izuku used Lion's Roar, which knocked them back. Soon, Izuku shot several fire bullets at the robots. They crashed to the floor, and they all exploded with a loud boom. Izuku felt quite proud of his work thus far. He had managed to put some distance between himself and the remaining robots and had managed to make a huge dent in the ranks of the robots. Good job, Midoriya. Aizawa smiled, watching from somewhere else. Now was time for Izuku's breaking point. The 0-pointer. Izuku deactivated his quirk combination and activated a different one. Heart Bomb plus Axe Hands plus Bone plus Gunpoint plus Jelly Surprise. Izuku's hands turned into axes, and his bones became unbreakable. Izuku shot Jelly Surprise underneath the 0-pointer, trapping it. Izuku then jumped up and used his Heart Bomb enhanced axe hands to destroy the 0-pointer, cutting it up into small pieces. And with that, Izuku's trial was complete. After he and Aizawa had a chat about Izuku's progress and what he had learned, Izuku went to the beach to train with his friends, though he only lifted weights this time around, because of how exhausted he was from his prior training. Friday, Izuku continued his training with Hound Dog. His endurance was still improving, so he was able to keep up with the dog, despite the exhaustion his body felt. In fact, even after Izuku had run 20 laps, he still wasn't tired. It seemed that Hound Dog could tell Izuku had improved in stamina over the course of his training, and he offered to give Izuku an easy lesson. Izuku ran 10 laps. 10 laps without using his quirks, which was extremely difficult. Once Izuku reached 10 laps, he fell on his knees, exhausted. But he didn't want to fail, as Hound Dog thought he might. So, he pushed himself up, using both of his arms. Hound Dog had moved to standing, and Izuku was about to start running the 100 meters mark. That was when his vision suddenly blurred, and everything faded to black. He didn't notice he had passed out until a large weight suddenly fell on him, almost sending Izuku flying onto the ground. Izuku coughed slightly, trying to force back the blackness that threatened to overwhelm him. Once he could finally see properly, he saw that Hound Dog was carrying him and he wasn't dead yet. "What's wrong with me?" Izuku gasped, as he struggled to free himself from Hound Dog's grip. "You've been pushing yourself too much," Hound Dog replied, sounding sympathetic. Izuku sighed. He knew that already. He had been doing the same thing for his entire life now, so he should have known there would be consequences. "But I'm training to be a hero. I need to push myself," Izuku remarked. "I get that, but you aren't a hero yet. You still have a long way to go. Just relax. Do you think you can walk on your own?" Hound Dog asked Izuku gently. "Yeah," Izuku groaned, struggling to get up again. Izuku slowly stood on his own and staggered along, not entirely trusting his vision. "There we go." Hound Dog patted Izuku's arm reassuringly. "Come on, now. You're done for today." Izuku nodded, still feeling very weak. Izuku thought about calling Katsuki on his phone to tell him that he couldn't come to training this afternoon, but he couldn't bring himself to do that. He decided to sit down instead. "Thanks for bringing me back to the school, Hound Dog." Sorry, I was making a fool of myself earlier. You were working hard, kid. I mean, look at you, how you want to make your dad proud of you. I don't think I've ever met someone as self-driven as you. Hound Dog praised Izuku. Izuku smiled. It's nothing, really. It's not nothing. It's something, and I admire that, Hound Dog said. The two men stayed silent for a while. I hope I can become a hero like you, Hound Dog. I promise I won't let you down, Izuku said softly. If anything, I should be saying that to you, kid. You've taken everything so seriously. You don't have a single bad bone in your body. Even if I hadn't taught you how to fight, you would be good enough to take on the world. With a hero like you out there, one day you will become great. Don't worry about not being a hero yet. You've got plenty of time before you're a hero. Wow, thanks, Hound Dog, Izuku mumbled. Don't mention it. Here, drink some water, Hound Dog said as he passed Izuku a bottle of water. Thank you, Izuku thanked, smiling. Once Izuku felt re-energized, he went to the beach, where the rest of the Ochika squad were training. Izuku didn't really train, but instead Izuku decided to write notes on his new quirks. Izuku knew he could try to make some use out of horns, since they were specifically made for close-range combat. Lion's Roar was a ranged quirk, but overuse gave Izuku an incredibly sore throat, nothing that regeneration could fix. But still, Fireworks was pretty powerful, so Izuku figured that this could be another go-to, besides Heart Bomb. Strong Jaw could be useful if paired with something like Lion's Roar, or maybe a fire-breathing quirk, which he might take possession of one day. Izuku thinks that he should use Stripe, Balloon, or Kitten more often in the future. Crystallize was discovered by Izuku that the strength of the crystals was dependent on his heat, so Ignite would work well with Crystallize. The original users of Iron Defense, Burning Hands, and Charged Thunder all seemed to be related, so he could try to make a good quirk combination with the three as a tribute to the original users. Blacksmith seemed pretty powerful, but not as powerful as Momo's quirk, Creation, since even though most things could count as a weapon, but Izuku knew that this quirk was pretty specific about what was classified as a weapon. If Izuku could try to make Pufferfish as ranged as he could, if he trained enough with it. A few more notes later, and Izuku got to Slippery Slide, and thinking about his other quirks gave him an idea that he just had to test out. Hey, Tsu, Izuku called out to Tsu. Yes, Kiro. Tsu hopped over to Izuku. Can we spar with each other? There's a quirk combination I want to test out, Izuku asked the frog girl. Depends on the combination, Kiro, Tsu said bluntly. Slippery Slide and Water Control. Slippery Slide makes me wet, and Water Control lets me control water. They basically fit each other like a hand going into a glove, Izuku explained. All right, Tsu nodded. Just beware, I've been learning some new moves ever since I started lifting weights. Izuku and Tsu both got into fighting positions. Ready, always. They charged at each other simultaneously, but Izuku quickly realized that he couldn't actually move fast, given the weakness in his legs. So, he stopped moving and used the momentum to propel himself backwards. He quickly dodged behind Tsu, who did the same. Then he jumped upwards, grabbing hold of Tsu, swinging himself forward and landing behind her. He then did what he wanted to test out. Slippery Slide plus Water Control. Izuku became extremely wet, and soon formed several water bullets with Water Control, shooting them at Tsu. She was able to jump above them and dodge, but then she noticed the water bullets and realized that Izuku had used his Water Control. In less than 10 seconds, all of the water bullets had hit their target, causing her to fall to the floor. Luckily, there were no injuries, but Izuku didn't think he could handle any more water projectiles right now. Tsu grumbled. Sorry, that was my bad. Are you alright? Izuku panicked. I'll survive, Kiro. Tsu sighed as she stood up. That was a pretty good combo, Kiro. Thanks, maybe next time I can show you more of my moves, and more quirk combinations I've come up with, Izuku asked excitedly. Sure, sounds like a plan. Tsu accepted. That night, after dinner, Hisashi ended up with a theory. Hisashi was helping his wife wash the dishes, but had trouble with the knives. Hisashi knew that knives are sharp, but he's also quite clumsy, and sometimes his mind wanders off most of the time, so, 𝐴𝐻. Hisashi motioned over to his wife. Yes, honey. Oh my golly gosh, 𝐴𝐻 screamed, noticing the bleeding coming from Hisashi's hand. Oh, it's nothing. I'll be fine. Hisashi shrugged off. All I need is a band-aid and, oh my golly gosh, Dad, are you okay? Izuku ran into the kitchen, worried for his father. Oh, Izuku, don't worry, I'm fine. It's just a tiny cut. It's nothing serious. Hisashi tried to calm down his son and wife. Hisashi was right. It was only a small cut across his thumb, and it wasn't even deep either. Hisashi felt the warm feeling of love in his chest that his family was worried for him, but also guilty that he was absent for so long that they didn't get to see him. Izuku, get me the first aid kit. We're going to have to do surgery, 𝐴𝐻 ordered her son in a maternal way. On it, Izuku nodded, rushing to find the tomb of Seker. The first aid kit. He rushed back into the kitchen, holding the kit with both hands, almost dropping it on the ground. 𝐴𝐻 opened the box, taking out 2 pairs of rubber gloves, giving 1 pair to Izuku as they both put them on. 𝐴𝐻 pulled out some disinfectant wipes, cleaning up 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖's blood. Izuku then placed a band-aid over 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖's cut. The surgery was a success. Izuku exclaimed happily. This is just a simple wound. 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖 cried. After Izuku helped 𝐴𝐻 with the rest of the dishes, 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖 explained what happened. So I was thinking about your quirk. And I was thinking about what would happen if you used it on someone else's DNA when it isn't connected to their body, and then the knife I was washing slipped. I cut myself. 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖 sheepishly explained. Well, should we try your theory out? Izuku inquired. It would be a waste of a good cut not to. 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖 nodded. 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖 lifted the band-aid from his thumb, which was still bleeding a little bit, and got out a small cloth from his pocket and cleaned up some of the trickling blood. Can we go outside for this? Because when I gain a new quirk, I end up involuntarily using that quirk, and because your quirk involves fire, Izuku explained, trailing off. I see. Well, let's head out then. Obviously you don't want your apartment on fire. 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖 nodded, as the two went out, to somewhere they wouldn't get caught for using their quirks. Where they went to was a nearby park, where a few vigilantes seemed to hang out. Looks like they were hiding from the police as well. Izuku took the cloth that had his father's blood on it, and as a test, used 𝐴𝐻𝐢ate on it. Quirk, Dragon's Breath. It's an emitter type that allows the user to breathe fire. The user has some control of the temperature of the fire. After confirming that 𝐴𝐻𝐢ate managed to detect 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖 through the blood, Izuku was sure that one with all would do the same. Izuku placed his hand on the blood, kinda hoping that this would work the way his father hoped it would. And so, Izuku had done it. He had taken the power from his father's blood stain. After shooting out a powerful stream of fire out of his mouth, 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖 was beaming with joy. It worked. 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖 exclaimed. Wait, so did I steal your quirk or copy your quirk? Izuku asked, tilting his head. 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖 shot a stream of fire out of his mouth, of the same power level that it would normally be. I guess it works the same way as losing a limb. It's still a limb, you just can't control it anymore. 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖 theorized. Well, either way, at least now I have a quirk that lets me breathe fire. Izuku smiled. Thanks, Dad. It was Monday night, and 𝐴𝐻 had to go to UA to see Hound Dog, since he had called her during the day. She knew Izuku would be fine at home, since her husband and his father, 𝐵𝑡𝐻𝑖, had made a surprise appearance. So after finishing her dinner, which was katsudon, 𝐴𝐻 head off, walking to UA. It was a good thing that neither one of the two decided to question why she had to leave. Once 𝐴𝐻 got to UA, she had noticed that the gates were shut, so she decided to phone Hound Dog, since she had his number. This is Hound Dog at your service. Hound Dog picked up his phone. This is 𝐴𝐻 Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya's mother, you wanted to see me during the evening? 𝐴𝐻 asked. Oh yes, obviously, the gates are closed, so I'll get one of the members of staff to open them so you can get in. Hound Dog said. 𝐴𝐻 smiled at this. She could never get tired of hearing how nice everyone at UA was, especially those teachers. After waiting patiently for about 15 minutes, 𝐴𝐻 finally saw who'd opened up the gates. There you go, ma'am. Toshinori smiled. Would you like me to show you around? No thanks, I'll try to find my way around myself. 𝐴𝐻 turned down the offer. Well, at least take this, it'll help you see in the dark. Toshinori gave 𝐴𝐻 a torch. Oh, thank you, kind skeleton man. 𝐴𝐻 thanked, as she went off to Hound Dog's office. As 𝐴𝐻 was walking, she had turned her newly acquired torch on and knew she needed to find a map, or at least directions. 2 fat sausages sitting in a pan. One went pop and the other went bang. A voice mumbled. Wait, who is that? And why are they singing about sausages? 𝐴𝐻 pondered, soon spotting the man that was mumbling. Is that a vampire? Close, but not close enough. It turns out that it was the blood hero, Vlad King. The name's Vlad King. Where you off to, lady? Hound Dog's office. He wants to chat with me about my son's well-being. 𝐴𝐻 replied. Well, I must say that I hope your son is doing okay. Judging by your green hair, I can presume that your son is Izuku Midoriya. Vlad King guessed. Oh yes, are you his homeroom teacher? 𝐴𝐻 nodded. Yes, Vlad King replied. Which is what I would say if he was in class 1B. His actual homeroom teacher is Eraserhead. Then how do you know who my son is? Eraserhead talks about him quite a bit during certain meetings. Apparently he has some sort of fear of villains. So which way is it to Hound Dog's office? 𝐴𝐻 soon asked. Go forwards until you reach a corner, then turn left until you see a sign that says Guidance Officer, and then you walk in, and then you've made it. Vlad King explained. Thanks, Mr. Vlad King. 𝐴𝐻 thanked. You're welcome, but before you go off, there's one thing I need you to do. What's that? 𝐴𝐻 asked before being bitten by Vlad King. Oh, what was that for? Just seeing if you were evil and trying to invade. Vlad King said. Right, 𝐴𝐻 said, before following Vlad King's directions. As 𝐴𝐻 was walking down the hallway, she heard singing. And it was really, really good. I'd like to make myself believe that planet Earth turns slowly. The voice sang. _𝐴 opened the door. It was Pro Hero, ectoplasm. Wow, I never thought that someone who teaches math could be so good at singing. _𝐴 said, you should never judge someone before you get to know someone. Ectoplasm simply said, I see. _𝐴 nodded. Would you like to try? Ectoplasm asked _𝐴. Yeah, but only one song though. I'm off to a meeting with 𝐻𝐻𝐷 about my son. _𝐴 smiled. Of course, I'll have to make it a good one then. Ectoplasm understood. Ectoplasm walked over to his karaoke machine and faced 𝐴 for a moment. Is there any song in particular that you want? Ectoplasm asked. Any song will do. I don't really listen to music in my spare time. 𝐴 shrugged. Alright, I think you'll like this one, judging by your general vibe. What song is it? Dreams of Our Generation. Ectoplasm replied, handing 𝐴 a microphone. The song started to play, with some short instrumental before the lyrics started. You and I've been through a lot together. 𝐴 sang. Yeah, that's just the way the story goes. 𝐴 sang. That's right, even though your heart breaks, and you're down on your knees. Anyway, you'll laugh again someday. 𝐴 sang. Let's go. And if you're down, you'll get up again. 𝐴 sang. Oh, dust off a bit and go along your way. 𝐴 sang. But don't you know, you might find, before too long, you're on your knees once again. That's right, until we gotta go. Let's spread our wings, now. Do anything, now. Somehow we came this far. 𝐴 sang. I've got a choice now. I hear your voice now, singing inside my heart. Yes, come on. Let's spread our wings, now. Into the sky now. Let's reach up to the sun. 𝐴 sang. Yeah, okay. Ectoplasm called out again. Soon we will see where. Living the dreams of our generation. 𝐴 sang. That's right. Ectoplasm called out once more. Here we go, come on. Here we go, come on. And with that, the song ended. You're a natural. Ectoplasm complimented. Thanks, now I have to go now. 𝐻𝐻𝐷 is waiting for me. 𝐴 smiled. Do you know how to get there? Ectoplasm asked. Yeah, Vlad King told me how to get there. Don't trust him when he's on security guard duty. He always gives out wrong directions to anyone who's visiting UA after hours. Why does he do that? He has a hard time trusting people, and sometimes his colleagues as well. So what are the correct directions, then? Go down the hallway. Take a left when you see a sign that says recording in progress on a door. Ectoplasm instructed. Look at that door and start to wonder, I wonder who's in there and what they're recording. Then go down the following hallway. Then you'll see the door to 𝐻𝐻𝐷's office. Okay, thanks. With those words being spoken, 𝐴 turned around and headed off to the left, while Ectoplasm watched, as 𝐴 walked away, making sure the young woman didn't slip. When 𝐴 was about to reach the door, she stopped dead in her tracks. Who are you? A monotone voice asked. I'm 𝐴 Midoriya. I'm having a meeting with 𝐻𝐻𝐷 about my son. 𝐴 replied. Who are you? I'm Hitoshi Shinzo. I'm the janitor here at UA. Hitoshi scrambled. You look pretty young to be working at UA. 𝐴 pointed out. Well, not all adults look like adults. Hitoshi realized his mistake of making interactions with 𝐴. That's true. I've been told that I look like I'm in my 30s when really, I'm in my 40s. 𝐴 laughed. Okay, I have some messes to clean up, so I'd better go. Immediately, Hitoshi said, soon walking away. Slowly, 𝐴 just shrugged and walked down the following hallway, and made it to 𝐻𝐻𝐷's office. Ah, 𝐴 Midoriya. Glad you could make it. 𝐻𝐻𝐷 exclaimed from behind 𝐴, accidentally startling her. Why hello 𝐻𝐻𝐷. What a lovely evening it is. 𝐴 smiled. Alright, go on in and we'll talk about your son. 𝐻𝐻𝐷 instructed. 𝐴 sat down on the sofa and 𝐻𝐻𝐷 sat at his desk. So, first of all, I want to inform you that Izuku has been cutting himself. 𝐻𝐻𝐷 informed, ready for whatever 𝐴's reaction would be. Yeah, I am aware. 𝐴 replied. One night I found one of his blades and I just felt so bad for him. Yeah, I can imagine. 𝐻𝐻𝐷 muttered. Now, did you hide Izuku's blades anywhere? I hid them in my bedroom, because I thought he wouldn't be able to find them in there. 𝐴 replied. Other things he said to me is that he was on medication for his trauma. What's some information that you can say about it? Oh yeah, he used to go on medication because it calmed down his anxiety. 𝐴 informed. He stopped taking it because it interfered with his schoolwork. Did Izuku ever mention to you how he was treated during his time before coming to UA? He always told me that they treated us very nicely, and that the best was Aldera. 𝐴 explained. This made 𝐻𝐻𝐷 confused. Either Izuku was lying about his past torment in school, or he was lying to his mother. Does Izuku ever lie to anyone? Never. If he ever does anything wrong, he says so, even if he hardly knows the person. Well, 𝐴, I think Izuku was lying to you about, quote-unquote, his pleasant school experiences. 𝐻𝐻𝐷 explained. What he's told me is that all the schools he went to before he started high school just told him to stop being traumatized. And he also said that they said they shouldn't change what they're doing to be inclusive to everyone. They just shrugged him off as an unimportant weakling. Oh, that's terrible, 𝐴 exclaimed. I wonder why he never told me how he really felt. It was probably so that he didn't have to change schools. I've seen his and Bakugo's dynamic, and he obviously wouldn't want to stop that from happening. Hound Dog pointed out. Oh, poor Izuku, how could I be so ignorant? ⴘⴘ sulked. I'm such a horrible parent. I should have noticed. Hound Dog couldn't help but feel sorry for ⴘⴘ. He looked her in the eyes, which caused her to look back at him. Listen, Hound Dog began. I'm sure that you know that autism is often genetic, right? Yeah, but what does autism have to do with this? Are you autistic, ⴘⴘ? Hound Dog asked. Why yes, how did you know? One of the abilities I get with my quirk is that I can detect brains, specifically if there's anything that's different about them. But what does autism have to do with this? What I'm saying is that you're doing your best, and you're going to leave a lasting impact on his life in the future. Hound Dog encouraged. Just as long as you're there for him, you've done enough. Thank you, Hound Dog, she whispered as tears began to run down her cheeks. ⴘⴘ couldn't hold it in. She let herself cry. She cried tears of great happiness and of great relief. She could feel all the emotions rushing at her all once. Joy, hope, sadness, pain, comfort, and love. She never thought that she could find someone that could make her feel this way. For so long, she felt like she and Izuku were all alone. Nobody cared. She felt like she was alone. But now, she knows someone who sees them both for who they truly are. She knows someone who believes in her. She knows someone who believes in Izuku. Thank you so much. ⴘⴘ sobbed in Hound Dog's chest. Ha, you and Izuku are so alike, crying so much. Hound Dog giggled. Now what are we going to do about Izuku? I'm not sure, now that I think about it. He's never that open to me about things like this. ⴘⴘ pointed out. First of all, address the concerns with him, and if he ends up feeling uncomfortable, then don't force him to open up to you. Hound Dog instructed. Right. Thanks, Hound Dog. ⴘⴘ smiled. Yeah, I think I have a plan on how I can address Izuku's cutting, without making him uncomfortable. After talking about other things regarding what ⴘⴘ knows about Izuku, ⴘⴘ started to head back home. Meanwhile outside, Toshinori was waiting for someone. Ugh, he said he'd be 5 minutes. What's taking him so long? Toshinori wondered. What Toshinori had set up was an insane obstacle course that looked like it was training for a third-year student. Soon, Hitoshi had ran out, wearing his gym uniform. There you are, young Shinso. What took you so long? Toshinori asked. I can't see in the dark, you know. Hitoshi pointed out. I was trying to get my PE uniform on, but I couldn't see what I was doing. And then I ran into Midoriya's mother and I had to pretend that I was a janitor. That's not a good enough excuse, so instead of doing the course 10 times, you'll do it 20 times. Toshinori exclaimed. Hitoshi gulped. The course looked very difficult. He wasn't prepared. He'd never done something like this. His first quirk didn't allow him to use physical strength. Then his other quirk broke his bones. All he could use was his brain and his quirk. Hitoshi took a deep breath. There was no backing out now. Let's start, Toshinori ordered, before beginning to sprint towards Hitoshi, who began running as well. The two ran through the course for around 2 hours, which was when Hitoshi felt like passing out. Get up, young Shinso, Toshinori ordered. I can't do any more tonight, Hitoshi panted. Yes, you can. You aren't crippled, and unless you want me to tell Principal Nezu to expel you, you'll get back up and go for 15 more laps, Toshinori screamed. Hitoshi immediately got up, not wanting to be expelled from UA or have one for all taken away from him, so he kept going, but still wanting to totally pass out. Eventually, Hitoshi collapsed next to Toshinori, panting heavily. Young Shinso, Toshinori panted, before continuing. You may have passed, but I can't have you passing out on me after a grueling hour of training. You can sleep tomorrow if it makes you feel better, but not now. I have to train you, even if you feel like you want to die. And maybe you'll even be able to have young Midoriya kicked out of UA. He mumbled that last part. Thanks, sensei. Hitoshi wheezed as Toshinori helped him stand up. Now I think that I need a shower. No, you do not, Toshinori declared. I don't shower, so you won't either. It had been another couple of hours, and it had soon become midnight. Toshinori and Hitoshi had agreed to finish for the night and continue the following afternoon. But over on the distance, Eraserhead was watching the two, extremely irritated with the number 1 hero. I swear to golly gosh, All Might is going to get an earful. Aizawa grunted, as his partner, Present Mike, was ready to leave for the night. Come on, Shota, I'm ready when you are, Hisashi told Aizawa. Just a moment, I'll meet you in the car, Aizawa informed his partner. Got it, just don't take too long. Otherwise, I'm driving home without you. Hisashi smiled. Once Aizawa saw Hitoshi go back into the building, he knew he had to find him, regardless of whether Toshinori was with the boy or not. He figured that he'd be in the changing rooms, since Hitoshi was in his gym uniform and probably wanted to change out of them. How do I go with this? I don't want to frighten the boy, and I don't want him to think that he's in trouble either, Aizawa thought to himself. Aizawa then heard the lock on the stall open up, so he needed to think fast. Looks like I'll have to put on my best All Might impression. Aizawa thought before clearing his throat and pulling off his best All Might impression. Hitoshi Shinso, I am here. Soon, Hitoshi came out, a mortified expression on his face. Mr. Aizawa. Hitoshi squeaked. Yes, it's me, Aizawa said. I can explain. Hitoshi exclaimed. There's no explaining needed. I saw you out there with All Might. Aizawa said. Quick play dumb. Hitoshi thought to himself. Who's All Might? He said out loud before thinking to himself again. Not that dumb. Look, all I wanted to say was that I saw how hard you trained. But if any of the staff of UA make you feel uncomfortable, including myself, you have the right to say so. Aizawa informed Hitoshi. Aizawa-sensei, are you proud of me? Hitoshi asked his homeroom teacher. Aizawa took a moment to respond, but he then smiled and said, Yes, Shinso, you're taking my advice about self-awareness seriously, and I commend you for that. Now you go home, and don't hesitate to speak up if there is ever anything wrong or anything bothering you, Aizawa said before walking away. I will, Aizawa-sensei. Hitoshi smiled. Outside, Aizawa got into the car with Hisashi. About time, I was going to drive off without you, Hisashi joked, knowing that even if Aizawa's face wasn't covered in bandages, he wouldn't drive off without his partner. I know for a fact that you wouldn't leave me behind, Aizawa said. Now let's get home. It's almost 12:30 and I have classes to teach during the day, and so do you. Hisashi soon started the car and started driving. So what was that thing you had to do? Hisashi asked his partner. Oh, nothing, I just thought a staff member could use some encouragement, Aizawa replied. Which one? Aizawa stayed silent for a moment before thinking of an answer. The janitor. UA has a janitor. Yeah, his name is, Shitoshi Henso. He must be a really good janitor if you of all people decided to give him encouragement. He's better than really good, he's amazing. And I believe that one day he can become one of the greatest janitors in the world. Listen up, everybody, Nezu called out. The faculty of UA were in a meeting, some of them thinking that the meeting was unnecessary, but others thinking that talking about the situation at hand was a good move on Nezu's part. As you all probably know, the USJ was attacked 2 weeks ago by the notorious League of Villains. Nezu explained. Nobody died, but a few people were injured. 1 student and 2 teachers. After sipping on his tea, Nezu went on to why he called the meeting in the first place. The police have finished their investigation on the attack and have found all of the villains that decided to hide after the attack concluded. So what I'm trying to say is that we have the green light to possibly do rescue training at the USJ again, Nezu explained. The teachers all agreed, along with other members of the staff. Nexu handed Vladking and Eraserhead permission notes to give to their students. Are there any other reports, such as 13's status? Eraserhead asked Nezu. I can assure you all that 13 is fine and will be able to teach at the USJ. Nezu tried to reassure everyone. The meeting went on for a bit longer, as they discussed Shigaraki's incompetence and childish nature, along with Izuku's findings about Kirigiri. After the meeting had concluded, Eraserhead called up each of his students' parents and apologized to them for what happened at the USJ. The next day, it was Monday, the worst day in the history of days. Aizawa knew he had to muster up the courage to tell Class 1A about their rescue training. Well, here goes nothing, Aizawa mumbled, before clearing his throat and saying, Listen up, everyone. As you all know, it has been a couple of weeks since the USJ incident, but the police investigation has been concluded, and we've been given the green light for you to do rescue training there. Yaorazu, could you please come up and place one of these permission notes on everyone's desk? Things were going okay. Things were going smoothly. Aizawa looked over to see everyone's reactions, and most of them looked pretty chill, except for one. Pure boy. Aizawa walked over to Izuku's desk, who looked scared at the prospect of going back to the USJ. Are you okay? Aizawa asked the green bean. Why yeah, I'm fine. Are you sure? Yeah. Izuku started to shake, as his breathing picked up a bit. Are you scared about what might happen at the USJ? Aizawa asked. Izuku nodded his head, which Aizawa looked at the boy sympathetically. Midoriya, I can promise you that there will be no villain attacks at the USJ, Aizawa reassured Izuku. Do you mean that? Izuku asked. Of course, Aizawa nodded. If there are, then I'll let you have my quirk. Wait, what? Yeah, I'll let you steal part of my quirk. Aizawa smiled. Izuku nodded, feeling a little bit better. That evening, during dinner, Izuku explained everything to his mother. So basically the police investigation about the USJ incident has been concluded, and we've been given the green light to do rescue training there, Izuku explained, showing his mother the permission note. Well, do you want to go back there? 𝗀𝐻 asked. Yeah, I guess. Izuku shrugged. I just can't stop thinking about if there's going to be another surprise villain attack. 𝗀𝐻 proceeded to go grab a pen. I feel like I'm just going to be a liability if there is one. Izuku then felt a hand on his shoulder. Izuku, son, if it makes you feel any better, I'll lend you a support item that's going to go to one of the heroes I work under, and I'd love it if you tested it out first. Hisashi smiled, giving Izuku a stun gun. It's going to go to the hero that has a quirk that allows him to use the quirk of anyone he is friends with. You can use it to stun any villains for a few minutes. Thanks, Dad. I'll give it back to you when I come back from school Wednesday. Izuku thanked his father as 𝑘𝐻 finished signing the permission note and handing it back to him. Thanks, Mom. Then Tuesday happened. It felt like it went by so slowly. During the day, Izuku could hardly pay attention to anything. Most of his teachers picked up on this and were lenient with him, except for one. It was time for heroics class, but throughout the class, Izuku frequently zoned out. As you all know, tomorrow you'll be going to the USJ, so I've designed some training exercises that will most likely not be covered in your USJ training. All Might explained. I'll be splitting you up in pairs, where it'll be similar to the first training exercise you did, but instead of capturing bombs, you'll be rescuing practice dummies. Basically, All Might explained that in one of the buildings of Ground Beta, 3 dummies would be hidden by a pair playing as the villains, and the other pair, playing the heroes, would have 10 minutes to find all of the dummies, with the villains being allowed to hinder the hero's success. Wait, what did he just say? Izuku asked himself as he zoned back in. The pairs were as followed: Ochako Uraraka and Mizo Shoji, Tajiro Kirishima and 𝗵𝐾𝐽 Takoyami Hantasiro and Toru Hagakure Rikido Sato and Mina Ashido Shoto Todoroki and Masurawa Jiro Tsuyu and Kyoka Jiru Yuga Aoyama and Denki Kaminari Izuku Midoriya and Momo Yaoyorozu Koji Koda and Hitoshi Shinsu Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida. Looks like it's you and I for this, Midoriya, Momo said, walking up to Izuku. Yeah, Izuku smiled, noticing that Momo was wearing the hero costume with his recommendation. I like your new costume, Yaoyorozu. Thank you. You were the one to design it after all. Momo smiled back. Initially, the support company was hesitant to update it, but my family is rich, so my mother threatened to sue them. I see. Izuku nodded. First up was Team I versus Team J. Izuku mostly zoned out while watching it with the class, but he did know that Katsuki protected 2 of the dummies, and that Hitoshi and Katsuki had fought a lot, to the point where Hitoshi broke his bones, as usual. During the next few trials, Izuku also zoned out, which All Might had seemed to notice, but didn't say anything at the time. Then up last, it was Team H versus Team D. Izuku did pretty well during he and Momo's match against Rikido and Mina, though his lack of focus during the match actually rendered him a bit of a liability. As usual, after the matches were complete, All Might gave his own notes on how everyone went. Well done, you aspiring pro heroes and young Midoriya. All Might congratulated. Now for your feedback. First of all, young Koda, it seems that you haven't used your quirk at all during any hero classes. Why is that? My quirk requires animals, so I can't use my quirk. Koji signed, but All Might didn't understand. I want an answer from you, not some weird hand movements. All Might demanded. Mr. All Might, sir. What Koda was doing was sign language. What he said was that his quirk requires animals, so he can't use his quirk. Izuku spoke up. When I teach this class, what I want is actual words, not some weird made-up language. All Might exclaimed, making several students uncomfortable. All languages are made up, and sign language is what deaf people and people who are mute use to communicate. Izuku explained. Don't you dare argue with me, young Midoriya. For that, you'll be getting detention on Thursday. All Might exclaimed. This initially freaked Izuku out, but then he remembered who ran detention. Eraserhead. So remembering this, it was basically a win-win situation. Izuku defended a friend. A few minutes later, it was finally time for Izuku's feedback. Now, young Midoriya, I've seen that before you went up, you weren't paying attention to what was happening, and even when you were up, you still weren't paying attention. Why is that? All Might questioned Izuku. I don't know, I'm just really excited about USJ training. Izuku replied. All Might just shook his head, but he just let it slide, though he did write a report about Izuku's behavior and gave it to Eraserhead. The next day, it was finally time for USJ rescue training. Like 4 weeks ago, everyone had put their hero costumes on and got on the bus in an orderly fashion. However, most people sat in different seats. Katsuki was sitting near the back of the bus with Ajiro, and Denki next to them. Next to Izuku was Tenya, and as usual, Ochako was next to him as well. Behind them was Mizo, Tsu, and Mina, and in front of them were Hanta, Rikido, and Koji. The bus trip to the USJ was pretty quiet, mainly because of what happened previously at the USJ. When they got there, they were all on guard. But soon, 13 had come out, slightly putting them at ease. Hello again, aspiring heroes of Class 1A. 13 greeted. As you all remember, my name is 13, pronouns, all of them. All of the yes, all of them, 13 said. Anyways, please excuse my attitude as being semi-high from the painkillers I'm currently on. But don't worry, I have basically fully healed. Should I be working while high? You aspiring heroes tell me. Most people were slightly weirded out by 13's sudden change in personality. Soon they were lead inside. Does anyone have any questions before we officially start? Aizawa asked the class, as Hitoshi raised his hand. Yes, Insomniac child. Well, All Might be present during this? Hitoshi asked as Aizawa simply sighed. No, he got caught up doing some other stuff, so you can forget about him. Aizawa replied. The class was soon guided to the flood zone. What do you think we'll be doing? Izuku asked Katsuki. Dunno, Katsuki replied, shrugging his shoulders. Are you good so far, Quirkologist? I know when you were here previously, there were a bunch of villains surrounding the boat you were stuck on. Yeah, I'll be fine. If I start having flashbacks or start feeling uncomfortable, I'll tell you. Izuku replied. Can anyone here not swim? 13 asked the class. No one raised their hand. Good. So today we're going to be starting off nice and simple with a few bridge rescue exercises. You'll be working in randomly assigned trios based off of your seat numbers and a random draw. One of you will be the victim pretending to drown and the other two will be the heroes saving them. 13 used a number generator on her phone to assign the teams. Izuku ended up with 𝐷𝐸 and 𝗵𝐸. This was okay, since he was able to work alongside both of them. 𝐷𝐸 was a friend of a friend, alongside turning into a friend, and 𝗵𝐸 seemed cool. You three go first. 13 called, pointing at the group that consisted of Tenya, Rikido, and Toru. Ada, you'll be the victim. Everyone watch. You can learn from them to improve your own run, instead of watching how this would go out. Izuku and 𝐷𝐸 had a conversation. So, I know your secret, 𝐷𝐸 told Izuku. Wait, you know? Izuku asked. How? Katsuki told me. 𝐷𝐸 smiled. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Izuku nodded and smiled. You know, I think it's pretty manly wanting to be a hero, despite going through what you've been through. Thank you, Kirishima. Please, call me 𝐷𝐸. Well, thank you, 𝐷𝐸. No problem, Quirkologist. How much did he tell you? Only the basics, but it was enough. Soon, it was Izuku's group's turn. 𝗵𝐸 was the victim. 𝗵𝐸 jumped into the water, soon giving 13 a thumbs up. 𝐷𝐸 and Izuku started planning their rescue. All right, I have a plan, Izuku told 𝐷𝐸. Hit me with it, bro. 𝐷𝐸 smiled. I'm all ears. As soon as Izuku told 𝐷𝐸 his plan, Izuku activated another quirk combination. Hot wings plus tentacles plus gummy body plus water control. Fiery wings formed on Izuku's back, as tentacles formed on Izuku's arms, and his body became rubbery. Izuku jumped up into the air and grabbed 𝐷𝐸 by the waist using his rubbery arms. Once both of them were above the water, Izuku used water control to make the water less rough. Then, 𝐷𝐸 grabbed 𝗵𝐸 by the waist, with Izuku's tentacles grabbing 𝗵𝐸 everywhere else that was grabbable. Once the three made it to land, the entire class started cheering. Thank you, 𝐷𝐸 bowed, as Izuku turned off his quirk combination, leaving 𝗵𝐸 unattended. Then, 𝗵𝐸 collapsed to the ground, leaving many stunned. A moment later, Izuku was shaking his shoulder. 𝗵𝐸 didn't react, holding his breath. He's not waking up. 𝐷𝐸 panicked. Sensei, what do we do? Squawk. 𝗵𝐸 sat up with a yell, causing 𝐷𝐸 to fall back with a scream of shock. What the hell, man? 𝐷𝐸 exclaimed, wanting answers about 𝗵𝐸 stunned. You don't just leave a drowning victim, 𝗵𝐸 informed. If this was real, I could have died. He's right, even if this wasn't the best way to teach us that. Izuku agreed, frowning. As heroes, it's our duty to protect others, not shimmer in our glory. Izuku then helped 𝗵𝐸 off of the ground. Even if the victim isn't in critical condition, unless the fans are also in danger, we should focus on the ones who need saving. Izuku said, we've only been treating this like training, but we should instead treat it like real situations, since that'll build habit. Eraserhead noticed the look on Izuku's face, and decided to say something about it. It was just a mistake, but you learned something from it. Aizawa spoke up. You're still students, so you're bound to make mistakes. I couldn't even keep track the amount of times my partner made mistakes when we were still students. The three walked back into the rest of their classmates. But Izuku couldn't stop thinking about if that was real, someone could have died. After that training exercise, there were several other training exercises, but the most interesting of them all was the last one, which was at the ruins zone. All right, for this training exercise, 16 of you will hide around the ruins zone, while the other 4 will find you. The faster, the better. 13 explained. Those 4 will be Midoriya, Shoji, Zero, and Shinso. 13 gave the others about 5 minutes to hide, while the 4 seekers discussed how they'd find everyone. One of my quirks allows me to read the minds of anyone within 30 meters of myself. We can use that to our advantage, Izuku said. Yeah, plus, you're like one of the best out of all of us at mobility, Hanta added on. Once the 5 minutes were up, the 4 started looking. Mindful aura plus hot wings plus tentacles. Izuku formed fiery wings and tentacles, while also being able to read the minds of everyone within a 30 meters range of him. During all of this, everything was going fine until a large villain emerged. After a whole bunch of fighting this mysterious villain, Izuku was exhausted. All he did was run. But then he remembered what his father gave him. You can use it to stun any villains for a few minutes. Asashi's words flashed through Izuku's mind. Thanks, Dad. Izuku suddenly smiled, reaching into his pocket and getting the stun gun his dad gave him. Then, Izuku leaped into action. He aimed the stun gun towards the villain and then electrocuted him. Soon, the villain's helmet was removed, revealing All Might. Izuku shouted in disbelief. How could you be so inconsiderate? Tojiro shouted, starting to kick All Might. How do you even consider yourself a hero? Hanta added on, also kicking All Might. I thought it was a good surprise. All Might retaliated, but it wasn't. Eraserhead shouted. You put several students' lives at risk. Not to mention you did this without my permission. Though at the end of the day, the students still learned something. And if anything, this training exercise taught Izuku a new lesson. Heroes aren't perfect. They're imperfect. They're human beings just like everyone else. Just like Izuku. And they're all capable of doing horrible things sometimes. Aizawa stared at his detention notes and sighed deeply. He only got those when someone was in detention. Name, Izuku Midoriya. Reason for detention. Arguing with a teacher, saying that all languages are made up. Teacher signed. ALLMIGHT. Aizawa sighed even deeper. All Might had already gotten himself into an incident involving his students this week. He shouldn't have to deal with another one. But at least this would give him someone on one time with the pure boy. In detention that day, Izuku was noticeably scared. So, I assume you're aware of why you're here? Aizawa questioned. Why yes, sensei. Izuku nodded. And I'm sure that you know what you did was very. Izuku tensed up, ready for the harsh words of his teacher. Heroic of you. Good job, pure boy. Thanks, Aizawa-sensei. Izuku looked up. No problem. Though I'm still going to keep you here, just because I need to have a chat with you. It's about the sports festival. Aizawa informed. Oh no, has it been cancelled? Izuku asked. Aizawa shook his head. No, not anything like that. Then what is it? Well, the representative of the first year is to give an opening speech, and the representative of the first year is you. Aizawa explained. Me? Why? Izuku asked, surprised on why someone like him would represent the first-year students. You got the most points on the entrance exam for UA, not to mention you broke the record for most points score. Aizawa gave the reasons. Oh, that's true. Izuku nodded. But what'll I even say? I don't even have a heroic quirk. It's not like it's fit for hero stuff or anything. Who cares what your quirk is? What matters is what you do with it. Aizawa told Izuku. As for your speech, I think I have a few ideas. Oh, really? Thanks, sensei. Izuku thanked. No problem. Aizawa smiled. Aizawa stood up and grabbed a piece of chalk. He then walked over to the board and started writing something. The world. Izuku read out. Midoriya, does your mother have an occupation? Aizawa asked Izuku. Yeah, she's a lawyer. She owns a firm in the district and she deals with criminal cases, especially in Japan. Izuku answered. Do you know why she's pursuing law as a career path? Because she wants justice in the world. Izuku replied, unsure of his answer. Aizawa wrote those things on the board. You've mentioned that your father is a support hero, correct? Aizawa asked. Izuku nodded. And why is he pursuing that career path? Because inventing things are one of his interests. Aizawa wrote that on the board. And what about you? Why do you want to become a hero? Aizawa asked once more. Because I want to make sure the world will never have to face the likes of horrific events like villains. And I want people to know that it's okay to be afraid, even if the reasons are terrible. Izuku declared confidently. And finally, I want people to know that even people with disabilities can do stuff normal people can. After that outburst, Aizawa wrote it down as well. Izuku waited patiently while waiting for Aizawa to finish his writing. What about your friends? Do you know why they want to be heroes? Aizawa asked. I know that 𝐀𝐦 wants to be a hero because he wants to be recognized. Izuku explained as Aizawa started writing. And Tenya wants to be like his brother, who's also a pro hero. The others, I don't exactly know. So what do all of these reasons have in common? Aizawa then asked the green bean. Izuku thought hard about this. Justice, interests, to be there for others, recognition, destiny. What did they all have in common? I don't exactly know, myself, sensei. Izuku shook his head. Sometimes the answer isn't always immediately obvious. Aizawa told his student, keep thinking. Izuku nodded and decided to look at one smaller part of the bigger picture. Justice and interests. What did they have in common? It took Izuku a bit to actually figure out what they had in common. What made them the same? But then it hit Izuku in the head, like a mailman sending a letter under the door. They're all reasons that people decided to pursue their passions. Izuku gasped. Bingo. Aizawa nodded. Everyone has their reasons for pursuing their career choices, and they live to serve their purpose within that path. Everyone plays their part, and everyone has a part to play. Izuku smiled and nodded. Don't forget that, Aizawa informed. Always remember, never forget. Go beyond. Plus ultra. Izuku smiled. Alright, now since you didn't do anything wrong, I'll give you a choice. Aizawa informed. You can either stay here in detention, or you can go to the cafeteria with your friends. Which do you choose? I guess I'll go join my friends in the cafeteria. Izuku shrugged. All right, have a good rest of your lunch, Aizawa told Izuku. I will, Aizawa-sensei. Izuku smiled, walking out the door. But before you go, Aizawa said, holding his hand out, I want you to borrow my quirk. Ah, really? Izuku asked in disbelief. Yep, I told you that if any villains attack the USJ, then I'll let you have my quirk, and since we were both right, I'll let you use my quirk during the sports festival, Aizawa explained. Thank you, sensei, Izuku exclaimed, shaking Aizawa's hand excitedly. Hurry and eat your lunch, it's almost done, Aizawa told Izuku. Oh, thank you. Izuku ran off towards the cafeteria. Aizawa shook his head and smirked. Man, that kid sometimes reminds me of Oboro. Aizawa muttered to himself, soon solemnly putting his head down. The rest of the day went by pretty smoothly for Izuku. During lunch, he found out why his friends want to become heroes. He found out that Achako's family was poor, and the money would help her family out. Sue wanted to become a hero because she wanted to be a good role model for others. Nina wanted to be a hero because she wants to make a positive impact on the world by using her powers to help people and bring a smile to their faces. Denki wanted to become a hero because he wanted to make his parents proud of him. Rikido wanted to be a hero because he always knew that saving people was the correct career path for him. And Ejiro wanted to be a hero because, in his words, heroes are manly. The next few days, Izuku was writing his speech with feedback from his mother and father, which was good. He also practiced his public speaking in front of them, too, since Izuku was more than just a little bit sure that there was going to be more than 2 people watching plus competing in the sports festival. This went on for the next few days. Izuku was also still training with Hound Dog and Aizawa. The teachers kept teaching Izuku what he could already learn, and Izuku was happy about that. They were amazed about how fast Izuku learned everything. Everything was going fine, except the night before the sports festival. He couldn't help but run. Why was it that it was faster than him? What did he do to be so derailed on his training? Izuku Midoriya, if you keep running, you'll never be a hero at this rate. He could hear a deep, almost heroic-sounding voice. He could feel someone grabbing his arm to slow him down. Huh? Who are you? He yelled, trying to turn his head around. If you stop, you'll never become a hero. The same voice spoke out. Why are you doing this? He yelled. You can't be a hero. So give up and let the more worthy pro heroes succeed. That voice, wasn't it familiar to him? How come he's heard that voice somewhere? Was it even true about what it was saying? The grip on his arm tightened for a second, but suddenly loosened. Then, he turned around quickly and looked at the person who just released their grip on his arm. Before he could even process the sight in front of him, Izuku wakes up screaming. He falls off his bed and hits the floor, the sharp pain jarring him back to reality. In his chest he feels burning. He feels like something's been cut out of him, and it's not real. He knows it's not real, but it feels so real, it feels so real, it feels so real. His breathing becomes heavy and rapid. His whole body starts trembling violently, and he feels like he's about to collapse any second. He tries to calm himself down, but the only thing he does is cry and scream in between short gasps for air. Tears begin streaming down his cheeks as he curls into himself, unable to calm down anymore. Everything hurts. Every part of his body is hurting. There's nothing but pain. He doesn't understand why. He just needs to wake up from this nightmare, this dream. He wants his mom to tell him it's just a bad dream. Just a bad dream. Just a nightmare. He needs it to stop. Suddenly, he hears knocking on his door, making him flinch. The knocking continues as he sits in silence on the ground, not moving, tears streaming down his face. Eventually, he stops crying and simply waits. Izuku. Who is it? It was 𝐀𝐦. 𝐀𝐦's heart broke at the sight that she was seeing. Izuku was on the ground, shaking and breathing erratically, also looking like he had been crying. She opened the door and walked over to Izuku, gently sitting down on the floor next to him, and pulled him close to her chest, hugging him tightly. After several seconds, he slowly calmed down enough to relax into her embrace. I'm here, she whispered softly into his ears. It's all right now. After a while, she slowly moved back so she could see his face. She looked at him and saw tear tracks trailing down his cheeks. SHH, she cooed, wiping away his tears. It was just a dream. You're okay now. I'm right here. You're safe. After some time, Izuku was finally starting to calm down. His breathing evened out a little as he held onto his mother. I'm here, sweetie, she answered softly, petting his hair. I know, you're scared. It's okay. I'm not leaving you. Izuku continued to cling onto his mother. What happened? She questioned. After some time, Izuku answered her. I was having a nightmare, Izuku shakily explained. I was running from a thing, and it said that I couldn't be a hero if I continued running. Then, when I stopped, it told me that I couldn't become a hero if I stopped running. Oh my goodness, baby, his mother whispered, kissing his forehead. I know the sports festival is on in the morning, but I would feel guilty if I didn't ask this. Would you like to stay home during the sports festival? Izuku shook his head. No, I have to be there. All right, but if you need to come home, feel free to call, and I'll be sure to arrange for an Uber or something to pick you up. 𝐴𝐾𝐦 nodded. Thank you, Izuku thanked. Then he heard his father come into the room. Is Izuku all right? Hisashi asked 𝐴𝐾𝐦. Yeah, he just had a bit of a nightmare. 𝐴𝐾𝐦 nodded, rubbing Izuku's back. Izuku sat up and looked at his dad. I'm sorry. Izuku apologized, feeling ashamed that he woke them up. Don't be silly, kiddo. Don't worry about us, all right? Hisashi chuckled. Plus, it's only 4. The rest of the morning went by. Somewhat okay. Izuku texted Katsuki to let him know how shit he was feeling. And Katsuki understood. Though Izuku didn't go in depth about his nightmare, all Katsuki needed to know was that Izuku had a bit of a rough night. But, all things considered, it was okay. Finally, the sports festival was upon them. Man, I really wanted to wear my costume, Mina complained as the whole class was in their designated waiting room. Everyone was wearing the standard UA gym uniform for the festival. It's to keep things fair, Mina. Momo reminded the acid user. The other classes don't have costumes, so gym uniforms level the playing field, so to speak, not counting each individual's advantage from their quirk. I wonder what the first round is gonna be this year. Rikido pondered aloud as he distracted himself so that nerves wouldn't build up. The anticipation of not knowing is the worst. It doesn't matter what comes. We must face down whatever the organizers have set up to challenge us. 𝗵𝐸 replied, as Dark Shadow rested their head on his shoulder as the bird brain started petting them. He's right. We have to show that we can handle whatever comes our way like real heroes. Mizo agreed. Izuku was sitting by one of the benches, clearly not giving a shit about anything going on. Ochako soon noticed how tired the green bean looked and walked up to him. Midoriya, are you okay? You look like you hardly slept last night. Ochako asked the bean. I had a really rough night last night, Izuku says, shaking his head to clear lingering feelings of fear and pain. Don't ask, just don't. Okay, but if you need someone to vent to, always know that I'm here. Ochako nodded. Thank you, Uraraka. Izuku thanked. Because we're so close. Feel free to call me Ochako, Izuku. Ochako smiled. But only if you want to, of course. I'd like that. Thank you, Ochako, my friend. Izuku soon smiled. The tender moment would be short-lived, however, because a certain half and half would soon approach the quirkologist. Shoto Todoroki was approaching him, staring at him with an expression as cold as a glacier, and all Izuku can think is, no, not today. Please not today. I can't do it today. Not now, not now, not now. Stay away. I can't. You're the strongest in the class, Shoto said, and Izuku listens but doesn't want to. He wants to run, but he forces himself to stay grounded where he is in this room. The rest of the students are watching, curious, and the glacier goes on. You came first in the entrance exam and took on the villains leading the charge at the USJ. And, Izuku deadpanned, too tired to care at the moment. If you aren't going anywhere with this, then you can be a kind man and politely fuck off. Thank you. I'm going to beat you. I have something to prove today. And I'm not afraid to leave you in the dust behind me. Shoto glared. The rest of the class was silent. Todoroki, Momo spoke up. Now is not the time for. Consider this my declaration of war, Midoriya. Today, no matter how hard you try, I promise I'm going to beat you. Shoto interrupted. Mark my word. You have got to be fucking kidding me. Izuku simply sighed. This is the first time I actually have a real conversation with you and the only thing you want to do is fight me. I was the one who got in on recommendations, Midoriya, not you. Shoto didn't avert his gaze. You want to declare war, Isahat. Izuku snaps. You think that I'm gonna back down just because you got in on recommendations? You think I'm gonna just stand down and let you beat me? Is that what this is? You think I'm scared of you? Midoriya, are you? Momo tried to cut in and do something about the situation, but to no avail. I have so much fucking more that I'm scared of than some petty declaration of war. Izuku continued. If one was to look closer into the green bean's eyes, one would see tears forming in his eyes. You want to fight me, huh? Well, go for it. I'll take you on, don't think I won't. You think I'm intimidated by this declaration of war you're giving me? Well, I'm not. You don't scare me, and I don't think you ever will. Shoto held back his anger and simply walked away. Out of the room. Fuck, Izuku whispered, feeling terrible about what he said. Are you okay, Midoriya? Momo asked the green bean. I might have messed up. Izuku admitted. Some hero I am. Izuku, Todoroki had no right to say that to you. Ochako soon spoke up. Especially when obviously you look like you've been through some horrible things. Dang, was it that obvious? I'm sorry, Izuku simply said. You shouldn't have to apologize, bro. Ijiro comforted. In fact, that half and half bastard should be the one to apologize. Katsuki agreed. Especially with some of the shit you've been through. I really messed up. Then Tsu walked up to Izuku. Midoriya, look at me. Sue instructed. Izuku locked eyes with the frog. Now remember where you are, Kiro. I'm in our waiting room. Exactly. And we aren't getting anywhere when we stay in here. We aren't getting stuff done. Sue said. Right, we should, go on out there and exist, or something. Izuku sheepishly shrugged. When they got out there, the stadiums were completely packed. People were cheering. The skies were blue. Nothing could ruin this day. What is up, listeners? Present Mike shouted from the announcer's booth, causing the crowd to cheer loudly. Make some noise, sports fans. Get those cameras prepped, media hordes. This year we're bringing you some of the hottest performances of the sports festival in sports festival history, guaranteed. I've only got one question before we start this show. Are you ready? Let me hear you make some noise as our students make their way to the big stage. With his speech over, the stadium exploded into a roar of cheers as they waited for the kids to begin their entrance ceremony. Izuku was glad that everyone seemed excited for today's event. The entire class seemed to glow with energy. It was almost too bright for him, almost as bright as the arena itself. Time to welcome our students to the field, Mike announced loudly as the first years began to emerge from the tunnel and onto the field. Going in alphabetical order, we start with our 2 hero course classes. Give it up for Class 1A and Class 1B. The crowd exploded into cheers as Class 1A appeared along with Class 1B. After the news of the attack on the USJ broke, people had wondered how UA would respond to such a bold villain incident. Seeing all 20 students of Class 1A on the field and ready to compete went a long way to showing the public that UA was fine. The future of heroes wouldn't be thwarted by a group of villains. Damn, this place is completely packed, Tajiro mentioned, seeing the massive crowd and all of the cameras flashing as the class walked across the field towards a raised stage. Next up, we have the students that keep UA High as one of the top 3 high schools in Japan for academics every year. There are general studies classes 1 degrees Celsius, 1D and 1E. Watch out, hero course. Some of them are even aiming to take your place in one of those 40 seats. Present Mike hyped up the crowd while praising the general studies students for their hard work. Izuku briefly noticed a few of the Gen Ed students start walking a bit taller at the DJ's praise. Now we have our talented students that produce the gear that gets things done. Support course classes 1 Fahrenheit, 1G and 1H. Make some noise, Mike shouted as the support course students, some of them decked out in their own self-made gear, walked onto the field. Anyone that wants to go pro needs to make connections with support gear designers. Quality gear can be the deciding factor in the field, Aizawa remarked, and several of the support course students grinned or chuckled at the underground hero's words. And last, but certainly not least, the ones who learn the ins and outs of our economy and how to market the heroes and their causes. Business course classes 1I, 1J, and 1 Kelvin. If you want to be an independent pro, you better make some friends here. Hero course, Present Mike declared loudly as the crowd's energy kept building. The business course students smiled and chuckled at the pro's statement. He wasn't wrong though. Any pro that hoped to go independent in the mainstream of the hero industry needed to have good marketing and representation. Wow, this is a lot of people, definitely more than 2. Izuku thought to himself. Hopefully my opening speech will be enough to wow the audience. With all of the first years gathered in the middle of the field, a loud crack caught their attention. From up on the stage appeared the R-rated hero, Midnight in all her R-rated glory. Time for the opening speech, Midnight announced. Set your eyes and ears on the one and only representative of the first-year students, Izuku Midoriya. Izuku took a deep breath and walked up onto the stage. As he was doing so, he reached into his pocket for his speech, but he realized, oh shit, left my speech at home. Izuku thought to himself, looks like I'll have to improvise for this one. As he walked up the stairs to the stage, he heard the murmuring of the crowd. As he headed over to the microphone, Midnight gave him a gentle nod of support. Hello everyone. As you all know, my name is Izuku Midoriya, also going by Quirkologist by most of my peers. And I want to become a hero, as does my classmates and the other hero course students, as well as some of the general course students. But who cares about those guys, am I right? Izuku tried to make a joke, and he mostly succeeded, getting a few chuckles from the crowd, but also a few concerned groans. And he's going to blow it, Aizawa muttered from the announcer's booth, luckily not into the microphone, so the green bean didn't hear him. And we all have our reasons for wanting to become heroes, and we're all fighting for something, whether it's to bring light to the world. He thinks about himself when he says that, or to support the people we love. Ochako comes to Izuku's mind when he says this, perhaps to be a support beam that the world is lacking in. Tsuyu then comes to mind, or to carry on a legacy within our families. Tenya then comes to mind, for recognition and solidarity. Katsuki and Denki cross Izuku's mind respectively, or to bring smiles to people's faces. Mina immediately comes to mind as soon as the Quirkologist says this, or maybe fighting for something is just the right decision to make. Rikido then comes to mind, or even the people who are fighting for themselves. Izuku thinks of Sshoto. Though he really didn't know why Isahot wanted to be a hero, did it have to do with his scar? Those are all reasons to be fighting for the greater good, and they all have something in common. Do you know what it is? Izuku stayed silent for a few seconds. If you guessed that they're all reasons, then you're absolutely correct. We're all here in this moment because we're fighting for something. We're fighting for something that matters to us. He doesn't know where this random burst of confidence came from, but he takes it and runs with it. So, today, Izuku says, raising his head towards the crowds. Today, tomorrow, and for the rest of our lives. Everyone, fighting for what means something to them. He throws his fist into the air, fist bumping the sky. Let's all do our best, he exclaimed, everyone, together. Fighting for what we care about. Fighting for what matters to us. Now let's do our best in this. No matter what happens, go beyond. Plus ultra. The crowd cheers. Izuku beams, and he laughs giddily, relief flooding over him. He power walks off the stage and lets Midnight take over, and Katsuki ruffles his hair while Mina cheers, telling him what a great job he did and that it was the best speech she'd ever heard. He had to admit, he was definitely releasing some build-up steam with that one. When it was only weeks since Izuku started training for this moment, it felt like months in between. Plus ultra, indeed. Now let's get on to the fist event, Midnight announced. Take it away, 𝐬𝐬. The display stopped on the words obstacle race. The first even is an obstacle race, listeners, Present Mic announced. Before we begin, we'll give out the rules for this event. Midnight informed the students with her microphone. The course will be one full lap around this stadium. The total length is 4 kilometers. As you all know, 𝐬𝐻's selling point is freedom. Midnight gave a sadistic look as she licked her lips. There are only 2 rules. First, you have to run the entire course. Going out of bounds by leaving the track is strictly prohibited. You must face each obstacle in order or you'll be deemed as having gone out of bounds and be disqualified. The pro cracked her whip towards the first years. The second rule, no attacking other students. Messing with the field to your advantage is fine. Direct attacks are not. Anyone attacking another student will be disqualified then and there. Other than those 2 rules, anything goes. You know the rules now, little listeners. Play fair and get back here first to be the winner. Break either of the 2 rules and you're out of the festival completely. Present Mic called out through the stadium speakers. Now, then, take your places, everyone. Midnight yelled, making the crowd cheer as the first event was about to begin. The students began to move to the tunnel that marked the starting line. Good luck, everyone. Izuku smiled. But still, good luck me. On your marks. To say that Izuku was freaking out would definitely be an understatement. Get set. Not like he doubted himself or anything. He was amazing at using his quirks. Plus, he even came up with a dragon-like quirk combination that would keep him from using his injured ankle. He was even told that his bandages would even be unwrapped the day after the sports festival. Go, Midnight yelled, blowing an airborne, everyone starting to run. Hot wings plus strong jaw plus dragon's breath plus horns equals flaming wyvern. Yeah, Izuku gave this quirk combination a name. He thought it was suitable, since he was working on this combination for ages now. Izuku formed 2 flaming wings on his back, and received 2 horns on his head. Izuku started flying, though close to the ground, and he could feel hot wind rushing against his body. He felt powerful, free, and invincible. This is what it feels like. To fly, to soar through the air, to break past the clouds and see the stars. This is what flying feels like. Izuku loved every moment he spent up in the air. And he knew that one day, when he makes his pro hero debut, he'd want to do something like that again. It's just what he wants to do. Go, go, go. Izuku encouraged himself through the roar of the winds, his heart beating as fast as if it was trying to escape his rib cage. He didn't know why, but his excitement was infectious. His energy was unstoppable as he pushed himself farther, further, faster. He could hardly breathe, his vision blurry from the intense heat that was radiating off his skin. Sweat ran down his face, dripping off of it onto the ground below. Soon enough, he saw them. The 0 pointers. Enemies have shown up out of nowhere. We're in for a treat here. It's a test of strength and courage, the 0-point apocalypse. Present Mic announced while the robots locked onto the students. Izuku had 2 options. Either he flies over the robots and get a slightly worse view of the track, or fight the robots and the other participants catch up to him. His answer was fairly simple, really. With a grin, he shot forward into the air. The 0 pointers were shocked by how easily Izuku dodged their attacks. They didn't manage to land any hits on him. Even during the race, Izuku was keeping his distance from the other competitors. Then a loud voice interrupted his thoughts. What the fuck, Midoriya? Izuku could hear Shoto's voice. He looked down and saw Sshoto using his ice to separate himself from the competition. Then his mind began to wander. He had used Evaluate on Sshoto before, and it told him that Sshoto could use both ice and fire, so why didn't he ever use his fire during training? He was thinking too hard, and so he wasn't paying attention to where he was going and ended up crashing into a robot. "Oh, that's definitely going to hurt tomorrow morning," Izuku grumbled. Izuku wanted to simply dodge the obstacles. Though he could make do with showing off as many quirks as he could, that'd definitely get him some recognition. Izuku's jaw embiggened and he shot out hot, green fire from his mouth, melting the robot's face. Then he closed his mouth as it became normal again. "Take that, you metalhead," Izuku taunted the robot, continuing to fly. Not every problem in the field of a hero needs to be, or even can be, solved by punching things. If you don't have to use force, it is better not to. Izuku heard Eraserhead say, in a tone that almost sounded like a lecture. Izuku was in front of most of the other participants, though Shoto was coming in behind him. He looked straight ahead, staring right at his opponent. "What did I even do to you, Todoroki?" Izuku pondered. "Why are you coming at me like all those bullies used to do to me before?" Yue. That's when Izuku started to dissociate. Those memories. They seemed distant now, almost like a dream, something he was barely remembering. But at the same time, it seems like everything that happened to him at UA was actually real, just a dream. He could practically smell the freshness of summer, the sound of the birds chirping as well as his own laughter. But then it hit him, the bullying, and suddenly, he could feel all the anger rising inside his chest. And he felt sick and angry and confused. Why couldn't he remember any of it? He knew what happened. He didn't want to remember it. Why couldn't he bring himself to remember it? "This isn't about revenge," he muttered quietly. But then it hit him, the bullying, and suddenly, he could feel all the anger rising inside his chest. And he felt sick and angry and confused. Why couldn't he remember any of it? He knew what happened. It was right here, right next to him. Yet, nothing felt real. But he still couldn't bring himself to forget any of it. Not until he saw Shoto's eyes. That's when he finally managed to push the thoughts aside. Izuku just wanted some inner peace, so he just started flapping his wings faster, just wanting to escape his mind and face the real world for the first time in forever. "Shit, you bastard," Shoto muttered. Just then, he noticed the giant robot that the students were supposed to face. It had a large horn protruding from it, which was pointing forward, and also looked extremely intimidating. "Damn it, I won't let you beat me, Midoriya," Shoto exclaimed as frost started to build up in his right hand and spread across the ground. The ground froze in a large area surrounding Shoto, and he swiped his arm upwards, sending a blast of ice and frost at 3 of the 0-pointers just as they were about to start their attack on Shoto. The robot stood no chance as the ice encased their metal bodies and they froze over. With an exhale of frosted breath, he ran between the frozen behemoth's legs as he continued to chase after the green bean. "Look, he stopped them," a student called out. "We can get through between the legs," another claimed loudly. "Well, we should be able to get by if we run fast enough," a third agreed. The group of students rushed along, though several Hero Course students were in front. What does Todoroki have against Midoriya? Mina wondered, as she continued running. "Not sure." Ochako shook her head. "I think I might have an idea." Momo stroked her chin. "Much like myself, Todoroki is a recommended student, and both of us have powerful quirks. Perhaps Todoroki has some sort of superiority complex or something and doesn't want anyone to surpass him." Momo's theory made perfect sense to the others and they nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, Izuku had made it to the next obstacle, the fall. Izuku Midoriya has made it to the fall, a canyon that must be trekked by walking on ropes, President Mike announced. "No," Izuku gulped. He wasn't sure whether to deactivate his current combination and figure out another way across, or keep the combination active and just fly across. Screw it. Izuku didn't get much sleep last night, and he was planning on using as many of his quirks as possible, but he didn't care at that point. Once again, Izuku Midoriya has chosen avoidance. Looks like he doesn't want to run on his injured ankle all that much, which is a good idea. President Mike cheered. Izuku looked down and continued flying, but Shoto was having none of it. "Midoriya, you are such a fucking coward," Shoto exclaimed, soon coming to the fall. "And Shoto Todoroki proceeds to be an asshole, man. What was his father teaching him?" President Mike announced, causing Shoto to grumble. Several students then proceeded to reach the fall and tried to make it across in their own quirky ways. Izuku didn't pay attention to one of the others, though. All he wanted was to finish this day. He needed to focus. Focus on what he was doing. Focus on his breathing. Focus on the sounds around him. Focus on anything but that asshole, Shoto Todoroki. As he flew farther and farther away, his heart rate picked up, making it harder and harder for him to breathe. His throat tightened. He felt as though he were being suffocated by the thick feeling of anxiety building up inside him. He couldn't take much more of this. It was killing him. He just wanted it to end already. To stop. To escape. Please just stop. Just stop. Please stop, 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 stop. But before he even knew it, Izuku had passed the fall, and he looked down onto the rest of the fall. Everyone was trying their hardest. Some people weren't managing to cross, while others just made it halfway through, and then collapsed due to exhaustion or fatigue. But there was always someone who managed to cross. At least, that's how it looks like in reality. However, seeing as his only plan in life currently involved finishing the obstacle race alive, that meant that he would have to face his own demons eventually. But one other student stood out to him. He was a male student with long light gray eyelashes and gray hair. Whoa, he definitely has some drive going. I suppose I should do the same. Izuku thought to himself, continuing to fly, going lower to the ground. The next, and final, obstacle was a minefield. If any mines were stepped on, they'd explode. Though Izuku didn't need to worry about this, since he wasn't using his legs. However, he decided to take precautions, just in case. So he took off a bit higher, looking around. He spotted some of his classmates in the distance, so it was safe to assume that they were still in the running. When he was halfway through, he saw 3 of his classmates catching up to him, Katsuki, Mina, and Shoto. It's a close race. Who's gonna be the first to make it to the finish line? President Mike asked the crowd. Will it be Izuku Midoriya with his dragon-like technique? Or Mina Ashido with her sliding into the next round? Perhaps Katsuki Bakugo with his explosive explosions? Or Shoto Todoroki, son of Endeavor, the number 2 hero? Aizawa announced, who should stop being slack and start using both sides of his quirk, since the hero course is for aspiring heroes that use their full potential. Shoto huffed at his teacher's statement, while everyone else laughed. Izuku pushed himself as hard as he could. He kept flying, ignoring the pain in his ankle, ignoring his burning lungs, ignoring the sweat dripping down his temples and face, and he just wanted to make it to the finish without too much difficulty. But then he felt a sudden wave of dizziness hitting him. Have to go on. Can't let Dad down. Izuku scolded himself, pushing himself further and further, when suddenly his vision got blurry and his ears started ringing and all he could see was black spots. A faint, familiar sound echoed throughout the entire arena. What is he doing? Is he losing consciousness? He heard President Mike shout frantically, "Stay awake, Midoriya," Aizawa yelled, hoping to encourage his student. Suddenly, everything seemed darker and more muffled than ever, and then darkness consumed him completely. No. This isn't happening. This can't be happening. Oh God. He whispered, "Oh God, no." He couldn't breathe. He was stuck, trapped in a void of blackness, like his body was being torn apart, like he was being ripped apart, like he was being burned alive. He needed to breathe. He could feel it. He could hear it. Breathe, damn it. Slowly, he moved his hands, feeling for something to grab onto. But then, Izuku heard President Mike's again. Izuku Midoriya comes first, Mina Ashido second, and Katsuki Bakugo third. President Mike announced as Izuku snapped back into reality. His eyes shot open. The bright sun blinded him momentarily, and he winced as the pain came rushing through him once he opened his eyes. "Erg," he groaned. "Quirkologist," Katsuki shouted, running up to the green bean. "Midoriya, are you okay?" Mina followed Katsuki. Oh yeah, I'm fine." Izuku smiled. "I guess I briefly passed out. Do you need to go see Recovery Girl?" Katsuki asked. "No, I should be good." Izuku shook his head, deactivating his quirks. "Other than hitting my head against one of the robots, I'm basically unharmed." "All right, if you're sure," Katsuki replied in a father-like tone. Several other students had crossed the finish line, too. Most of them were in the hero course. Izuku presumed that it was because only students who were training to be heroes would truly know what it was like to face grueling trials every day. Meanwhile, in an unknown location, most likely a hero's agency, a pro hero who was wearing an orange suit, black leggings, and was wearing a black helmet that was covering most of their face was watching the sports festival on their TV while sitting on their couch. So that's the kid that Flamethrower's been talking about. The pro hummed. Seems mighty powerful. He probably shares some of his father's traits with him. Soon, another pro had came into the room, though she wasn't wearing her hero uniform. "Would you like butter on the popcorn, Shushu?" she asked. Oh, yeah, sure. Are you okay? You seem tense." "Of course I am. The UA Sports Festival is just very exciting." "You sure?" "Yep, if you say so." After several minutes of silence, she spoke up again. "Shit, I forgot to tell you about Stain," she muttered. "The hero killer, Stain. What about him?" "Apparently he went at another hero." "Which one?" "I'm not sure. I should probably go read the news again." "Well, shit." As several other students had made it to the finish line, the second pro hero came back. "Okay, so I have good news, but I also have bad news," she said. "Well, what's the good news?" "The good news is that nobody from your agency was attacked." "Oh, thank fuck." Shushu sighed in relief. "The bad news, on the other hand, is that the turbo hero, Ingenium, was the one that was attacked." "Oh shit." Your demeanor changed very quickly, my collector. "Well, heroes are important figures in this world," Shushu admitted in a sexy tone. "Well, maybe this important figure deserves a quick makeout session before the next round." "Oh, Rumi." And soon, the two pro heroes started making out as the butter on their popcorn melted, just the way they like it. Once the last of the students crossed the finish line of the obstacle race, it was revealed that only the top 42 students would go on to the second round. "Now that we have our top 42, we can start the next round," It is unfortunate that not everyone can make it in, but we have to cut the numbers. The next competition begins soon, and the press will be all over it. Give it your all, students, President Mike announced. It had seemed that all of the hero course students, as well as a pink-haired girl from the support course and a student from the general course, were the ones to make it. Now, let's find out what the second round event is. Midnight cracked her whip as the wheel on the display began to spin rapidly. Everyone watched on as the wheel spun. The sudden stop revealed the event, and everybody was quick to read it. Cavalry battle. Allow me to explain. The participants may form teams of 2 to 6 people, as they wish. Midnight explained. The goal of the game is to steal headbands from other teams in order to raise their team's score. Participants are not allowed to intentionally make each other fall. Even if a team loses their headband or falls down, they can continue competing until the 30-minute time limit is up. So, we're just racking up points like at the entrance exam. That's easy enough, Izuku thought to himself. The points assigned start at 5 for the student in 42nd place, and then go up by 5 from there. That means the 41st place is 10 points and 40th place is 15 points. Midnight continued. However, there is one exception to this rule. Everyone became extremely fascinated. The person who came first during the obstacle race will be assigned 10 million points. Midnight announced. Izuku suddenly felt all eyes turn to him and focus intently. He felt a wave of nervousness overcome him at the thought of being the target of literally everyone else in the second round. He should have figured that there would be some kind of penalty for his success in the obstacle race. That means as long as you have the 10 million points, you automatically win. Someone said just loud enough for everyone to hear. Izuku didn't recognize the voice, so it must have been one of the members of Class 1B. That's right. It's survival of the fittest, where even those at the bottom can overthrow the ones at the top, Midnight declared, pointing one of her fingers in the sky. Great, just great. Izuku huffed. This will be just fine. I'm not going to get murdered today, and Dad will be proud of me. As soon as the commotion died down, Midnight spoke up again. Now that you all know what to do, let's get into teams, Midnight announced. Remember, 2 to 6. No more, no less. If Midnight was secretly a penguin with OCD, Izuku wouldn't be surprised. Now all that Izuku had to do was form a team, which was easier said than done. Izuku felt like crawling into a cave and eating rocks alone in the dark. Izuku, do you want to form a team with me? 𝐴𝐻𝐴𝐽 asked the green bean, snapping him back into reality. Oh, I'd love to. But aren't you worried about everyone coming for us? Izuku asked the girl. Of course I am. But facing danger is just one of the things you'll have to face when being a hero. 𝐴𝐻𝐴𝐽 reminded Izuku. Yeah, you're right. Izuku nodded. So, we'd obviously need a few more people. See any hot shots? 𝐴𝐻𝐴𝐽 asked. Soon, the gray-haired guy that Izuku had seen during the previous round had walked up to the duo. You're the guy that has 10 million points. He then reached his hand out for a handshake, which Izuku took. I'm Tetsu, member of Class 1B. Hi, I'm Izuku Midoriya. Izuku introduced himself. And I'm 𝐴𝐻𝐴𝐽 Uraraka. 𝐴𝐻𝐴𝐽 introduced herself. We're both in Class 1A. So, would you like to form a team with me? I know I might not be all that useful, but I can at least try. Tetsu offered, smiling. That would be very delightful. Izuku nodded. Nice. Now we need 3 more and then we'll have a full team. Tetsu smiled. Then, Mina had came up to the 3. Are you still looking for team members? Because I'm sure willing to join. Mina offered. Yes, please. Izuku smiled as Mina leaped as she smiled. Thanks, Midoriya. Mina thanked. Tetsu turned to Mina. Hey there. I'm Tetsu of Class 1B. Tetsu introduced himself. I'm Mina Ashido of Class 1A. Mina introduced herself. It'll be a pleasure working with you for this round. Tetsu smiled as he and Mina shook hands. Now we just need 2 more. 𝐴𝐻𝐴𝐽 smiled. As long as people are willing to join us, I have no idea whether people would want to join us since I'm the 10 million point target. Izuku laughed sheepishly. Just then, the girl from the support course had creeped up behind Izuku. You're that guy who came first in the obstacle race, she exclaimed, startling the green bean. I'm Meihatsu. I'm from the support course. Geez, you scared the living daylight out of me. Izuku jumped back. Yeah, I tend to do that to people. Mei smiled. So are you still looking for teammates? Yeah, we are. Izuku nodded, his neurodivergent radar going off around Mei. Then again, it went off around most of his classmates, as well as his gaydar, but he wasn't as sure with that one. Then I'll be sure to help us stay winners. Mei smiled. This was fine. This was good. Everything was gonna work out. And if not, that was the way life goes. Just keep it cool, kid. Just keep it cool, kid. Don't freak out now. Think positive. Focus on victory. And then everything will be alright. However, Izuku's calmness was short-lived. Pun intended. Hey ladies, a very short student with purple balls for hair called out. It took a few seconds for the group to see who was speaking to them. Down here, the same boy informed, causing the group to look mildly disgusted at what they saw. If you pick me, you'll not choose wrong. With a skip and a hop I have a huge dong. So ladies, if you ever want to have some fun time in the bedroom. Who are you exactly? Izuku immediately asked. I'm minor 𝐴 of class 1 degrees Celsius. 𝐴 introduced. Well, 𝗏𝗟, we'd rather someone who doesn't look like they'll sexually abuse someone if they were tall enough. Tetsu told 𝗫. You can be sure that you're making a mistake by not choosing me. 𝗫 pleaded like his life depended on it. Yet you told us that you pants elephant is huge, which is likely a lie. Mina exclaimed. Do you want to find out? 𝗫 inquired, grinning. No, you perv. I'm a frickin' lesbian. Mina glared, making 𝗫 facepalm. You know that heroes aren't gay, right? 𝗫 received a whole bunch of glares. If you don't want to get brutally murdered by us, leave us alone. Immediately, 𝗏 seethed. I will not be afraid to use my quirks on you. Izuku began saying threateningly. 𝗫 left after that, walking away slowly, but also holding up his hand to imitate a phone, and mouthing the words call me. What an asshole. 𝐴𝐻𝐴 remarked as she looked towards Izuku. Of course heroes can be gay. Heroes are amazing beings and should be loved unconditionally. How could anyone have the audacity to discriminate against people based on sexual orientation? Izuku ranted. Do you guys think that this is enough people for our team? Tetsu then spoke up. The others nodded. Of course, when coming up with a strategy, Izuku mainly thought about avoidance. Avoidance meant hiding in plain sight. And it meant that you could avoid people trying to kill you without having to reveal your identity to the entire world. Avoidance meant avoiding people and situations you weren't particularly comfortable or happy with. And Izuku liked that idea. If he avoided things and situations he didn't feel comfortable doing, he could probably avoid the people who wanted to hurt him. Izuku wasn't dumb. People hated him. And the only way he could stop their hatred was to avoid all social interaction. Aw shit, he was dissociating again. Izuku, are you okay? 𝐴𝐻𝐴 asked him, snapping him out of his mind. Oh yeah, just a bit nervous, that's all. I've already come so far, I don't want to fuck it all up now. Izuku explained. Izuku, I can promise you that you aren't going to fuck this all up, and if you do, we'll all be here together, no matter what. 𝐴𝐻𝐴 smiled. Thanks, 𝐴𝐻𝐴. Izuku sighed. You always make me feel better. Don't worry, Izuku. 𝐴𝐻𝐴 grinned. This'll all be over soon. The group then figured that they'd wing it, literally. Izuku would be on top of their formation, due to his ankle, and use hot wings and balloons to help his team fly and get away from the other teams. Since they already had 10 million points, they'd win automatically. The loud buzzing sound of the timer going off filled the stadium. Everyone in the stands quickly refocused on the stadium floor. It was time for the chaos to begin. Hot wings plus balloons plus muscle expansion. Izuku formed 2 flaming wings on his back. As his muscles expanded, becoming stronger, and he started forming balloons filled with air, his teammates all grabbing them before they could float away. Then, they started rising. Izuku flapped his wings as hard as he could, and managed to get above most of the crowd as he was flying high up in the air. In a second, Izuku's eyes caught sight of another team in the center of the pitch. By the looks of it, Katsuki, Tenya, and a couple of others had formed a team. You know, apart from the unhinged chaos going down below, this is actually pretty peaceful up here. Mina commented. Now that I think about it, I wonder if that 𝗏𝗟 ever found a team. Tetsu remarked. I hope he got put in a team with a bunch of homos. Mina snarked. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being who you are, even if it means liking the same gender as yourself. Izuku pointed out. Damn, Midoriya is base confirmed. Tetsu smiled. Of course, I have to look out for my people, you know. Izuku nodded. Aye, another gay. Mina smiled. And demiromantic, too. Izuku smiled. Another thing we have in common. Mina chuckled. Apologies for my lack of understanding, but what's demiromantic? 𝐴𝐻𝐴 asked. Oh, a demiromantic person is someone who only develops romantic feelings for another person when they have a strong emotional connection to them. Izuku explained. Well, now that we're talking about sexuality, I'm bisexual. 𝐴𝐻𝐴 informed. Oh, me too. Tetsu smiled. What about you, Hatsum? 𝐴𝐻𝐴 asked. I'm still figuring myself out, but I definitely know that I like girls. Mei explained. For now I'm using the term gynosexual to describe my sexuality. Amen to that. Mina nodded enthusiastically. The group then looked to the chaos going on down below. It had looked like Hitoshi had formed a team with 3 members of Class 1B. One was blonde, one had ice blue hair, and one had a head shaped like a glue dispenser. You know, it's just come to me. But what if someone noticed us up here and tried to attack us? 𝐴𝐻𝐴 wondered. It all depends on who it is. Izuku mentioned. For example, if Tokoyami tried to attack us using his shadow, I could easily use my fire breath quirk to weaken his quirk. You know, I'm just pretending to know what quirks you all have while I'm just here looking like an idiot. Tetsu sheepishly smiled. Oh, well, my quirk is called One with All and I can steal the power of people's quirks, though I simply copy mutant quirks since they're basically an extra appendage. Izuku explained. Though a few weeks ago, I discovered that if someone's blood isn't in their body, I can copy their quirk without anything happening to the original user's quirk. That's cool. It reminds me of one of my classmates' quirks. Tetsu smiled. Their quirk is called copy and it allows him. Gosh, I'm terrible. As I was saying, it allows them to copy someone's quirk that he insert something funny here. I can't believe how terrible I am. They can use for a certain amount of time. My quirk allows me to remove the effects of gravity for anything I touch. Ochako explained. It's called zero gravity. My quirk is called zoom, and I can basically zoom my eyesight for up to 5 kilometers. Mei explained. That sounds really useful, Hatsume. Izuku smiled. What about you, Pinky, what's your quirk? Mei asked Mina. I can shoot acid out of my hands. Mina explained. A couple of minutes passed, and there was only 10 minutes left on the timer. Just a few more minutes until this round ends. Izuku pointed out. We're going to make it to the next round if we stay up here. But do you guys want to do something crazy? Like what? They asked, smirking. Maybe cause some of our own chaos down below. Izuku suggested. So basically cause a riot on the ground. Tetsu asked. Exactly. Izuku smirked. Who's in? Yeah, riot. Ochako and Mina chanted. I could definitely do with some action today. Tetsu nodded. Yeah, let's make everyone go nuts. They smiled viciously. All right, this might be a bumpy ride, but... Izuku stopped flapping his wings. The group then started falling to the ground, but the balloons had slowed down their falling. Once they made it down to the ground safely, Izuku looked to the side and saw Hitoshi's team. Crap, Izuku muttered. Once Hitoshi noticed Izuku's team, he smirked. Pleasure to see you be courageous for once. Hitoshi smirked. Glue head, now. The guy with the glue dispenser for a head then started spraying a glue-like substance at Izuku's team. Izuku then activated Evaluate to see what that guy's quirk was. Semidine, a mutant-type quirk with emitter-type aspects that allows the user to spray a glue-like liquid from the holes in their head. The user can adjust how fast it can dry up. However, the glue can be dissolved with corrosive liquids, such as acid. Izuku thought to himself. Izuku then activated Web Shoot and started shooting webs at the guy's head, blocking any more glue from coming out of his head. Damn it, Hitoshi muttered. Then, Hitoshi activated One for All into his finger and prepared to flick it at Izuku. But Izuku deactivated Web Shoot and an activated Erasure, effectively erasing Hitoshi's quirks. Got him it, Hitoshi shouted. The group then ran to somewhere with less teams crowded around. They stayed there for a couple of minutes, while the other teams just fought each other, not noticing the group. I'm surprised that they haven't noticed us yet, Izuku pointed out, chuckling slightly. Well, that's a good thing, at least. Ochako nodded. They're all too distracted by each other to realize the big picture. Mina pointed out. This was good. This was great. Izuku knew that he'd get to the next round and everything was fine, 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 everything was not fine. Izuku could sense it. As Izuku waited for something terrible to occur, the timer ticked down. As each second passed, his worry only grew. Something terrible was going to happen last minute, and he couldn't do anything about it. He knew it. Fuck, why was this happening? What did he do to get here? Oh fuck. 3 minutes left. 3 minutes. What? The actual fuck. All he had to do was survive 3 minutes. Surely, he could do it. Surely, anyone spotted us yet? Izuku asked his team. Doesn't look like it, Tetsu remarked. They're all preoccupied with fighting. But don't worry, Midoriya. We'll be able to figure out what we're doing, so don't worry yourself over nothing. Mina reassured him. He felt a little calmer knowing that, but something wasn't right. There was something wrong with the atmosphere and he couldn't place what it was or even think about why. It was as if the air itself was slowly changing color around him. It was as if all of those things were becoming more intense, more concentrated around him. As if the temperature was starting to drop. It was as if someone was taking a picture, or a video clip. Or both, and he just wanted to leave as soon as possible, because this seemed to be causing him immense pain. Something was seriously wrong and he needed to find it out before it caused him any harm. However, he couldn't move, no matter how much he tried. His arms refused to move and every part of him seemed frozen. He could barely breathe. It hurt, God it hurt. He knew his heart was beating fast as fuck and it hurt so bad that he wanted to die already. It didn't feel good anymore. Why couldn't he just move? Why couldn't he try anything? He knew his team wouldn't let anything happen to him or his friends. How could they do that when there was so many kids out there who have gone through worse than what he was experiencing? He needed to get control of himself or else his life would end. And, time. A voice shouted. It was familiar. It was Present Mike's voice. Izuku snapped back into reality and looked around. Everyone had stopped fighting. Why wasn't he dead? Moving on to the next round, Present Mike announced. In 4th place, Team Shinzo. Hitoshi smiled at himself, knowing that he made it to the next round. He then deactivated the effects of his quirk, allowing his teammates to freely move. In 3rd place, Team Yanagi. In 2nd place, Team Bakugo. Present Mike announced. Damn right, we are. Katsuki smiled. And in 1st place, to nobody's surprise, Team Midoriya. Present Mike announced as the crowd cheered. Now, I am sure everyone could use a break. With that being said, we'll be putting the sports festival on a 2-hour pause for lunch. When we come back, it'll be straight into the 3rd round. See you all in a while. Hit the restrooms, grab some food if you're hungry, or even buy some rockin' merchandise. Don't forget to check out the business course student stalls. All proceeds go to the school's funding, as well as several charities. Everyone cheered as several people got up to take advantage of the break. The participants also walked out of the field part of the stadium, the ones moving on to the next round going to mentally prepare for whatever the next round would offer. Going for the pressuring approach, Zashi. Shota asked Hisashi, the latter getting up, turning off the microphone for the time being. I'm not pressuring, just suggesting. Hisashi shook his head. Shota simply hummed. So, are you hungry? Hisashi asked his partner. I guess. Shota shrugged. Let's go and get some food then. Hisashi suggested. I heard that one of the business course students is selling onagi maki. Shota didn't respond for a moment. Sho, are you okay? Hisashi asked Shota. Is it childish to still miss Aburo? Shota asked. Even after 17 years. Hisashi's smile dropped from his face. That was something he hadn't expected. Shota never spoke about Aburo ever, especially with Hisashi. But now he did talk about him without batting an eye. Almost as if Aburo didn't exist. It hurt seeing his partner so sad over Aburo, but at the same time it pained him as well. Seeing Shota like this broke his heart. He wished Aburo's death had been easier for Shota to accept rather than having to live with the memory of Aburo being tortured and killed. Hisashi sighed as he placed a hand on Shota's shoulder, making the black-haired male turn to face him. No, it isn't. Hisashi shook his head. Aburo was our friend, and he meant a lot to us, and that's okay. Letting Aburo go is always difficult, but if you keep hurting and blaming yourself for Aburo's death, it will hurt you more. Remember that Aburo loved you very much, and he'd want you to continue living your life with happiness and hope. Sho. Yeah, you're right. Shota nodded, standing up. You can head to the stalls. I'll meet you there. There's something I want to talk to someone about. All right, I'll meet you there. Hisashi nodded. The two walked off, going their separate ways.